Chapter 9:21. The entire world was silent. Countless people stared dumbfoundedly at the blood energy that was gradually dissipating in the sky, as if they had been petrified. Sect Master. The members of the Devil Sect revealed sorrowful expressions as they cried out in pain. They could not believe what had happened before their eyes. The Devil Sect's overlord, Ing Xiangtian, was dead. Even his soul was not spared. Whether it was the people from the Devil Sect or the Kunlun Ruins forces present, this outcome was unacceptable. Brother Ing! Old man Qing Ming roared. The faces of the other supreme giants twitched. Their eyes were filled with shock, disbelief, and coldness. Ing Xiangtian's strength was not weaker than any of them. However, he was killed by Yi Chen as soon as they fought. At this moment, the leaders of the high sects, including Sect Master Lei Xing, Xing Chenzi, and Old Immortal Spirit Talisman, realized that they had underestimated Yi Chen's ability. Brother Qing Ming, this person is too monstrous. Star Sect's Xing Chenzi's expression was extremely grim and terrifying. We really can't hold back today. Otherwise, we'll be the next Brother Ing. That's right. We've already reached a point where we won't rest until one of us is dead. Even if we have to risk our lives, we must kill this brat here. 7-Star Treasure Map. Star Sect's Sect Master, Old Man Xingchenzi, stretched out his hand, and a huge star map surging with starlight appeared in his palm. As soon as the star map appeared, it suddenly expanded. Yi Chen was completely enveloped by it, as if he had been sucked into another space and time. It was the Star Sect's supreme treasure, the 7-Star Treasure Map. It could draw the power of the Big Dipper in the sky and borrow the power of heaven and earth to participate in the battle. In an instant the weather changed. 7 rays of starlight descended from the sky like 7 pillars of light that supported the sky. Attack together! In the next moment, Old Man Qing Ming, Zen Master Ban Ruo, Sect Master Lei Xing, Zi Qingyang, and the rest attacked as well. 5 terrifying auras soared into the sky as if they wanted to pierce through the sky, transforming into rays of light that shot into the 7-Star Treasure Map. At that moment, the sect masters of the 6 high sects attacked at the same time. Their might caused the void to tremble. Once in 1,000 years, once in 1,000 years. The sect masters of the 6 high sects have joined forces to attack Mad Southern Yi. This time, it's time to decide the fate of the Kunlun Ruins. The hearts of the spectators shook violently, and then they swiftly retreated in fear of being affected by the aftershock of the battle. Seeing that the 6 of them were going to attack Yi Chen together, Yi Wushuang's expression was as cold as ever. He did not stop at all as he charged toward the Star Treasure Map with firm step. In the past, he was the sword in the hands of his master. Master and servant were inseparable in life and death. Today, although he was the brother of his big brother, it was natural to fight a tiger with blood brothers. Wushuang, you don't have to come in. An extremely calm voice came from the Star Treasure Map. No, big brother, you and I are brothers, and we have long been of the same mind. If you live, I live, and if you die, I die. Wushuang's expression was incomparably firm. His footsteps did not stop. At this moment, he had once again become the stubborn youth from before. Under everyone's shocked gazes, his body suddenly blossomed with tens of thousands of sword lights. And in the next moment, the white-robed figure twisted several times before finally transforming into a gigantic sword that could hold up the heavens. The gigantic sword emitted a golden light that was dazzling and resplendent. It was like a divine sword descending from the sky, buzzing non-stop. A supreme sword chi that was unyielding to fate and possessed a supreme emperor's might charged into the clouds of the 9 heavens, causing the sky to change color and the sun and moon to lose their brilliance. At this moment countless spectators were shocked when they saw this. This is turning into a sword? When Hualing, who was in the crowd, witnessed this scene, her pretty face changed. Elder Qin Xian, it's this move again, it's this move again. Elder Qing Xian was equally shocked. The scene before him was exactly the same as what Yi Wushuang had unleashed when he fought Su Qilin. An unyielding sword gleam was like a meteor that flashed in the night sky. It emitted a dazzling brilliance for a moment before suddenly shooting toward the star treasure map. Yi Chen stretched his hand out and grabbed the hilt of the sword. Then, he shouted like thunder, "That's good too. Today, the two of us will work together to kill this bunch of trash, break through the Kunlun ruins, and return peace to the secular world." Kill. Sect Master Lei Xing and the rest were filled with killing intent. The Spirit Talisman Sect's Sect Master, Old Immortal Spirit Talisman, was glowing brightly. His face was grim as he was the first to charge at Yi Chen. A green glow flickered in his right hand. With a wave of his hand, a golden-armored giant that was over 6 meters tall appeared in the air. The giant's face was ferocious like an evil god. It exuded a tyrannical aura, and it stared fiercely as if it wanted to tear this world apart. It was the Old Immortal Spirit Talisman's golden-armored warrior talisman. Just this giant alone was comparable to a supreme giant. Boom! The golden-armored giant waved the sword in his hand. A dazzling gleam exploded and slashed at Yi Chen like the sun was falling. The monstrous sword gleam surged like a vast ocean, causing many spectators to have goosebumps. The light in Yi Chen's eyes flickered. The sword in his hand traversed the sky and drew a sword gleam that looked like a comet. It slashed at the golden-armored giant instantly. Rumble, the space collapsed, and violent cracks were faintly discernible. It was as if this world had been sliced apart. Bang, 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 the golden-armored giant was instantly slashed into countless pieces by the sword, turning into chaotic spiritual energy that swept in all directions. Old Immortal Spirit Talisman felt a sharp pain in the depths of his heart. He could not help but spit a mouthful of blood and was forced back by the chaotic spiritual energy. After finally stabilizing himself, his eyes were filled with extreme shock when he looked at Yi Chen again. "You're going to die too." Yi Chen's eyes were cold. Just when he was about to pounce at him, several terrifying attacks came from behind him. It turned out that the other 5 sect masters had attacked. Vajra Demon Subduing Ring. The leader, Zen Master Banruo, took off the prayer beads on his neck and pressed his palms together. The prayer beads immediately shone with Buddhist light. The so-called Vajra Demon Subduing Ring was made of 36 sandalwood beads. It was hung on Zen Master Banruo's chest and bathed in scriptures day and night. It had long been blessed and possessed Buddhist Dharma. It was said that this treasure could suppress the 5 supreme giants on the spot, sealing their limbs, bones, and meridians, rendering them unable to move at all. Crack, 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 as soon as Zen Master Banruo's Vajra Demon Subduing Ring appeared, it turned into a ray of light and pressed down on Yi Chen's head. When his arms stopped moving, the Vajra Demon Subduing Ring began to shrink rapidly as dazzling Buddhist light surged. It was compressing Yi Chen's body crazily. At the same time, a lightning Zen staff suddenly appeared in Sect Master Lei Xing's hand. Lightning. In an instant, lightning erupted on the lightning Zen staff. Lightning appeared in the air and thunder exploded. Sizzle, as he pointed the lightning Zen staff at Yi Chen from afar, a white lightning bolt as thick as an adult's arm struck at Yi Chen. Chapter 922. Seeing this, countless people's pupils constricted. He can actually command lightning. As expected of Sect Master Lei Xing. Our Tao sect is the most orthodox cultivation sect in the Kunlun ruins. A mere lightning technique is nothing to the sect master. Someone from the Tao sect was filled with arrogance. Mad Southern Yi is trapped by Zen Master Banruo's Vajra Demon Subduing Ring, and he's being bombarded by Sect Master Lei Xing's lightning. He doesn't have any other abilities now, right? A powerhouse mumbled. As soon as that was said, the people from the Witchcraft sect, Corpse sect, and the 7 ancient clans could not help but stare at Yi Chen nervously. If Yi Chen could not break through it, it would mean that he had lost the battle, and the price of failure was death. As the saying went, the winner was king, and the loser was a bandit. As fans, they would definitely be punished by the Kunlun ruins. Rumble, the lightning that sect master Lei Xing controlled hit Yi Chen accurately. Dazzling light shone through the sky. For a time, the void shattered, and strands of extremely violent origin energy of the universe completely blocked everyone's vision. Someone was shocked by the shocking might before him and could not help but ask, "Mad Southern Yi should be dead in the face of this lightning strike, right? No matter how strong Mad Southern Ye's body is, it's still a mortal body. How can it resist the mighty might of the heavens?" Someone smirked coldly. On the other hand, the witchcraft sect and the other forces were in despair. However, after the storm dissipated, a skinny figure appeared before everyone's eyes. He stood in the sky and did not move at all. He's not dead? How is that possible? Not only is Mad Southern Yi not dead, it seems like Sect Master Lei Xing's lightning strike did not cause any damage to him. Oh my God, just how strong is his body? At that moment, countless people were in an uproar. Their faces were filled with disbelief, and their hearts were trembling. He did not die in the face of the lightning strike. Wasn't this a little too powerful? What? It wasn't just them, even Sect Master Lei Xing, who was filled with confidence, was shocked. A wisp of dense shock flashed through his eyes. Why can't I move my Vajra Demon subduing ring? Zen Master Ban Rua's expression changed, and he could not help but exclaim. He realized that although his Vajra Demon subduing ring had trapped Yi Chen, it could no longer shrink. Vajra Demon subduing ring? Yi Chen smirked coldly in the void. His jade-like skin suddenly emitted a dazzling golden glow. Break! He let out a long roar that sounded like the roar of an ancient god. It emitted the sound of the great Tao, and the space in front of him was forcibly torn apart. Bang! The Vajra Demon subduing rings on his body shattered with a loud rumble, and all the rocks within a radius of 1 li shattered at the same time. Dozens of mountains collapsed and turned into dust. Pooh! Zen Master Ban Rua spat blood on the spot. Not only did Yi Chen's roar destroy his Vajra Demon subduing ring, but it also almost shattered his mind. Elder Qing Ming from the Ghoul sect had a cold look in his eyes. He held a black spear in his hand and said, "This kid's physical body is invincible. Attack his vitals." The so-called vital points were nothing more than the eyes, nose, mouth, and ears, and other sensitive areas. The black spear looked as if it was made of molten iron, and it was burning with black flames. Sizzle! Under countless gazes, the black spear pierced through the air and stabbed at Yi Chen's glabella in the blink of an eye. That's the Ghoul sect's black crystal spear. Someone immediately cried out in shock. It said that this spear was refined from the spine of a saint in the history of the Ghoul sect after he died. Then, it was soaked in the blood of tens of thousands of babies for 81 days. It was too terrifying. Countless people were shocked. From afar, the spear looked like a ghost king's bone spike that extended from the terrifying Azura hell. Every wisp of flame was enough to kill a supreme giant. Clang! Yi Chen's eyes were extremely cold. He extended his hand that looked like crystal jade and grabbed the black spear with 2 fingers. The Ghoul sect's treasure, the black crystal spear that could suppress any supreme giant, was actually caught by him with 2 fingers. Everyone was instantly petrified, and their eyes were filled with shock. A world-shocking attack was resolved so easily. Even Elder Qing Ming was shocked. He roared and increased the strength in his hand, as if he wanted to break free from Yi Chen's fingers. He believed that as long as the black crystal spear could pierce Yi Chen's glabella, the endless vile energy within would be able to invade Yi Chen's soul. Bang! In the next moment, Yi Chen exerted force with his fingers, and the black crystal spear was broken instantly. It was crushed into countless black fragments between his fingers. Stomp, 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 Elder Qing Ming was sent flying immediately. Meanwhile, his eyes were filled with disbelief as he looked at Yi Chen. "Treasure, please show yourself." At that moment, An earth-shattering shout came from the side. A purple gourd suddenly appeared in Zi Qingyang's hand. The purple gourd was only the size of a palm, but its entire body was imprinted with breathtaking Tao patterns. A purple energy soared into the sky from the mouth of the gourd. In the air, the purple energy finally turned into a peerless immortal sword. Its entire body was suffused with thick purple energy, and it shone brilliantly. It's the purple gourd Tao sword of Purple Cap Mountain. Seeing that, the entire place fell into an uproar. Even Sect Master Lei Xing and the rest were no exception. Purple Cap Mountain had a 1,000-year-old spirit root. It was originally a purple gourd vine. In the past 1,000 years, it had only produced one gourd. On the day the gourd was formed, a phenomenon appeared in the sky. It was a purple imperial court. Later on, the saint used his creation ability to refine it into a Tao sword. Therefore, it was also called the Purple Gourd Tao Sword. It was known as the #1 sword in the Kunlun ruins, and it had once killed a saint. Elder Qing Ming cursed secretly, Zi Qingyang, that old fox. He clearly brought the Purple Gourd Tao sword, but he only used it now. Treasure, please turn around. Zi Qingyang bowed respectfully to the Tao sword in the air. The purple sword pierced through the sky instantly and slashed at Yi Chen's body like lightning. The unparalleled sword intent in Yi Chen's hand exploded. A clanging sword chi charged forward. Rumble, with a loud bang, the unparalleled sword chi was forcefully shattered. The purple sword did not slow down at all and slashed at Yi Chen's neck directly. A drop of golden blood flowed down Yi Chen's neck slowly. There was a long sword mark on his neck. He's injured. He's finally injured. Elder Qing Ming cried out in shock. Meanwhile, the rest were shocked as well. From the beginning of the battle until now, Yi Chen's powerful body had made them despair. They did not expect him to finally be injured. Master, that Tao sword is a little strange. It's comparable to a nascent soul's primordial spirit treasure. I was careless. Night Demon's solemn voice sounded in Yi Chen's ears. He did not expect there to be a primordial spirit treasure on Earth that was comparable to a nascent soul. I can feel it too. Unparalleled's calm voice was heard. Chapter 923. Although the Night Demon armor and Wuxuang were once peerless immortal artifacts, ever since they were shattered, their power was less than a billionth of their peak. Especially the Night Demon armor, it had been nurtured by Yi Chen ever since he reunited with him. Even so, it had only recovered to a golden core magic treasure. Yi Chen stretched his hand out and wiped the sword mark on his neck. He suddenly lifted his head and grinned. Very good. Congratulations on successfully angering me. In return, I've decided to give you guys a big gift. I'll send you guys on your way. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his sleeve. A shocking formation shot into the sky, and then it enveloped everyone like a black curtain that covered the sky. Rumble! In an instant, the sky changed color, and the wind and clouds reversed. At that moment, under everyone's gaze, incomparably orderly golden formation patterns appeared in the air. From afar, it looked like a giant spider web that had enveloped everyone below. The extreme killing intent caused the sky to tremble, and the space to begin to collapse. It was as if it wanted to kill all living beings in this world. What happened? At that moment, countless people raised their heads to look at the sky. Their hearts were filled with fear, as if they had fallen into purgatory on earth. Under such a huge, invisible killing intent, every inch of the other Supreme Sect Master's muscles was trembling. Killing formation, this is a peerless killing formation. Sect Master Lei Xing sucked in a breath of cold air. He felt all the hairs on his body stand on end. Mad Southern Yi, you brat, do you think you can trap us with a killing formation? Old man Qing Ming's expression changed slightly. Then, he took a step forward and turned into a dark shadow that flashed towards the edge of the killing formation. He slapped out with his palm, "Break!" Rumble, as the palm slammed into the void, that place immediately shook violently, and then there was a materialized killing intent that shook back. Bang! Caught off guard, old man Qingming was struck by the materialized killing intent. He spat out blood and was sent flying back again. How is this possible? The expressions of Xingqianzi and the rest changed drastically when they saw that. The full-powered attack of the Supreme Sect Master, old man Qingming, was actually unable to break the formation. Boom! Zen Master Ban Ruo quickly formed hand seals, and a lotus imprint appeared in his hands. Then, he blasted it towards the edge of the killing array. Pooh! His eyes, nose, mouth, and ears were bleeding. At this moment, the hearts of the 6 Supreme Sect leaders had completely sunk. Their expressions were no longer as calm as before. Sect Master Lei Xing's expression was extremely grim. He glared at Yi Chen. Mad Southern Yi, what formation is this? Yi Chen stood in the air as a cold smirk appeared at the corner of his lips. Of course, it's a formation to kill you. This rune was known as the Great Annihilation Rune, and he had created it while he was in isolation during the ceremony to change the name of the 9th summit. Inside the killing array, he was invincible in Kung Fu. He had originally planned to use it at a critical moment, but Zi Qingyang had injured him with that strange Dao sword, which had completely infuriated him. Everyone, there is no need to panic. He is already injured, and it will be very difficult for him to maintain this killing formation for too long. At the crucial moment, it was Zi Qingyang who spoke. As long as we join forces to kill him, the killing formation will collapse on its own. Kill. At that moment, the 6 Supreme Sect Masters no longer hesitated. They took out their spirit treasures and attacked Yi Chen crazily. Treasure, please turn around. Zi Qingyang roared. The purple-gored Dao sword in his hand shot out another shocking sword gleam. It slashed at Yi Chen again in an unavoidable manner. Are you at your wits' end? Yi Chen scoffed coldly and attacked all of a sudden. It was simple and direct. He threw a shocking punch at the shocking sword gleam. At that moment, he was within the Great Annihilation Rune. The pressure on his body skyrocketed, as if the entire world was moving with him. In heaven and earth, he was the only one. At that moment, he displayed his invincibility once again. Boom! Following a loud bang, Yi Chen shook the shocking sword gleam that was slashing at him with his bare hands. His fist's shadow was like lightning as it shattered the shocking sword gleam. At that moment, his long hair that had been possessed danced in the wind. At that moment, the killing intent in his eyes intensified. He strode toward Zi Qingyang, who was about to take out another Dao sword. Die! He used his finger as a saber and slashed out beams of saber gleams that were like demonic blades. They charged in all directions and pierced through everything. Clang, clang, clang! Zi Qingyang's expression changed drastically. The purple-gored Dao sword in his hand shot out another sword gleam and slashed at the saber gleams. Sparks flew everywhere. More than 40 of the dozens of saber gleams that Yi Chen slashed out were destroyed. However, there was still a saber gleam that broke through the defense and slashed at Zi Qingyang. Blech! Zi Qingyang subconsciously crossed his arms in front of his chest as if he wanted to block it. However, the saber gleam instantly severed his arms. Then, it slashed at his chest. Like a knife cutting through tofu, it sliced his entire body and soul into two. The purple-gored Dao sword turned into a sword gleam as if it wanted to tear through the air. However, it was grabbed by Yi Chen's huge hand in the blink of an eye. The Supreme Sect Master of Purple Cap Mountain, Zi Qingyang, was dead. The world fell silent once again. The people watching the battle outside the killing formation revealed expressions of fear. Another Supreme Sect Master was dead. He's too powerful. Many people sucked in a breath of cold air. All that was left in their hearts was deep despair and shock. The people from Purple Cap Mountain could not believe all of this. Sect Master Lei Xing and the rest were shocked. And this was just the beginning. Old man Qingming finally felt a trace of regret. This person is too terrifying. What else can we do? Spirit Talisman Sect's old immortal Spirit Talisman roared repeatedly. We can either give up resisting and wait for death, or we can fight to the death. Let's fight. Star Sect's Sun Xing's face was ashen. Then, he quickly formed hand seals with both hands, and his eyes were filled with madness. Suddenly, a dazzling starlight appeared in the sky. Subsequently, it shot straight at Yi Chen's head at lightning speed. Lightning! Sect Master Lei Xing bit his middle finger, and quickly drew a 5-thunder incantation on his palm. Then, he slapped at the sky with one hand. Rumble, thunderclouds roared in the sky. At the next moment, 2 bolts of lightning that were as thick as buckets descended from the sky. However, just when the 2 terrifying auras were about to land on Yi Chen, the surrounding space shook. Irresistible killing intent spread out like raging wave. Each layer was stronger than the last as it crushed down, crushing the 2 attacks on the spot. What? Xingchenzi and Sect Master Lei Xing were shocked. Yi Chen was unmoved. He charged at Xingchenzi all the way. The killing intent in his eyes was as intense as the ocean. The killing intent that filled the sky in the Annihilation Formation seemed to have sensed it, and a peerless killing blade condensed from killing intent appeared in his hand. Yi Chen stood with the blade in his hand. There was killing intent deep in his eyes. My will is like a blade that can kill all gods and demons. Chapter 924. The saber gleam pierced through the sky. Under Xingchenzi's rapidly dilating pupils, it directly slashed down from the top of his head, splitting him into 2 before exploding into a cloud of blood mist. The Star Sect's sect master, Xingchenzi, was dead. When old man Qing Ming saw this, he completely lost the determination to continue standing. He roared and attacked the formation with all his might. At this moment, another saber gleam flashed past, slashing through his shoulder and shattering his soul. The Ghoul Sect's sect master, old man Qing Ming, was dead. In just a few breaths of time, 3 supreme sect masters had died in Yi Chen's hands. Meanwhile, only Sect Master Lei Xing, Old Immortal Spirit Talisman, and Zen Master Ban Ruo were left in the killing formation. Shocking, absolutely shocking. The people watching the battle outside the killing formation were completely shocked. They broke out in cold sweat. Yi Chen's heaven-defying combat ability had never appeared in the Kunlun ruins for hundreds of years. This was too frightening. Be it the people from the sects with low cultivation bases or the supreme giants of the 7 high sects, their souls were trembling. The successive deaths of the supreme sect masters caused the hearts of sect master Lei Xing and the other 2 to sink completely. When the 6 of them were still around, they could not kill Yi Chen. Instead, they allowed him to kill 3 of them. Now that there were only 3 of them left, how could they be Yi Chen's match? Yi Chen lifted his head to look at Old Immortal Spirit Talisman and took a step forward. With every step he took, the invisible killing intent in the killing formation would increase again. Mad Southern Yi, I think there's some misunderstanding between us. Old Immortal Spirit Talisman's heart skipped a beat, and he revealed a faint intention to compromise. However, Yi Chen only made one move, which was to attack. He attacked directly and responded to him with his actions. Mad Southern Yi, I'll drag you down with me before I die. When Old Immortal Spirit Talisman saw this, he roared furiously. Suddenly, a terrifying blood energy erupted from his body, dyeing the sky red. It was as if a primordial ferocious beast had awakened in his body, wanting to destroy this world. Someone said, "What is he doing?" At that moment, Zen Master Ban Ruo and Sect Master Lei Xing's expressions changed. He burned his life talisman. The so-called life talisman was something unique to the Spirit Talisman sect. The seniors of the sect would plant a life talisman in every single person that joined the Spirit Talisman sect. Life talismans were closely related to one's life, and it was even able to increase the Spirit Talisman sect's disciples' ability to sense spirit talismans. Only in this way would they be able to walk further in the Tao of Talismans. Once the life talisman was ignited, it meant that spirit talisman Old Immortal was really going all out without any hope of survival. Master! In the outside world, countless spirit talisman sect disciples were grief-stricken. Boom! With a loud bang, Old Immortal spirit talisman's aura suddenly rose by several times, and a purple mark appeared on his forehead. The appearance of this purple mark made Sect Master Lei Xing, Zen Master Ban Ruo, and the others feel the danger of death. Boom! The purple mark was like a crescent moon, and as soon as it appeared, it completely devoured all the heaven and earth energy in an area of 3 kilometers. Subsequently, they turned into countless tentacles that swept at Yi Chen from all directions. Even a supreme giant would not dare to face each tentacle. Break! Yi Chen waved his fists and streaks of golden gleam shot out. The surrounding space was destroyed by this punch. The tentacles that covered the sky and earth collapsed on the spot. Killing intent surged in his eyes. With a flash, he pounced at Old Immortal Spirit Talisman and lifted him above his head. He pulled hard. Instantly, a large amount of flesh and blood splattered. The sect master of the Spirit Talisman sect, Old Immortal Spirit Talisman, was dead. Sect master. The people from the Spirit Talisman sect outside fainted on the spot. Too brutal. Everyone was stunned by this scene. That was a supreme overlord. He was torn apart by Yi Chen alive. Was he still human? Ba. At that moment, Zen Master Ban Ruo sat cross-legged and pressed his palms together as he chanted, "Raging flames burn my body. What joy is there in life, and what bitterness is there in death? Eliminate evil for good." Under everyone's shocked gazes, flames appeared out of thin air on the surface of his body. Facing such flames, Zen Master Ban Ruo remained unmoved. He continued sitting cross-legged and chanting sutras, as if he could not feel any pain. However, in the next moment, a red figure shot out from the flames and turned into a golden Buddha. "Foolish people of the lower realm, how dare you blaspheme Buddha?" The golden Buddha was like a furious Vajra. His voice was like thunder as he lifted his giant palm and slapped Yi Chen. "So, it's the remnant soul of a Buddha who has barely become a Buddha." Yi Chen smirked coldly. "I've killed countless Buddhas. You're just a Buddha's remnant soul. How dare you act so high and mighty?" At the next moment, with a stomp of his feet, his entire body soared into the sky. A sword swept across the sky, and the sword gleam split the mountains. It was resplendent and dazzling, and it streaked across the sky like a bolt from the blue. Heaven and earth seemed to have frozen. Boom! As the void trembled, an incomparably terrifying storm suddenly erupted. The golden Buddha was forcefully shattered in front of everyone's eyes. Blek! Zen Master Ban Ruo, who was on the ground, spat a mouthful of blood as if he had aged dozens of years. "I didn't expect that I wouldn't be able to kill you even after activating my body of merit." With that, his head drooped heavily. He was completely dead. Dead silence. The world was dead silent. At that moment, no one spoke. To everyone, it would be a piece of cake for the 6 Supreme Sect Masters to kill Yi Chen when they joined forces. However, Yi Chen killed them instead. Sect Master Lei Xing was the only one left now. Under everyone's gaze, Sect Master Lei Xing's expression was terrifyingly grim. His eyes flickered as if he was thinking about something. A few seconds later, he leaned heavily on the lightning staff in his hand and suddenly said, "Lightning, come!" At the next moment, there were dark clouds in the sky. Yi Chen's eyes shot into the sky. There was an emperor's might on his body that fought against the dark clouds. "You dare to come? You really dare to come?" The dark cloud disappeared with a loud bang. The sky returned to normal. Sect Master Lei Xing's expression changed drastically. He never expected that his lightning technique would suddenly become useless. "You think you're worthy of talking about lightning?" At that moment, Yi Chen stood proudly and smirked in disdain. Subsequently, he raised one hand to the sky and said calmly, "Lightning, come." Suddenly, dark clouds covered the sky. Lightning appeared in the sky, and lightning roared. It was as if the world had fallen into a sea of lightning. Under the terrifying might of the heavens, countless people were shocked. Some even prostrated themselves on the ground, trembling. Only a figure stood with his hands behind his back, standing still. He was bathed in lightning, as if he was the god of thunder. Yi Chen lifted his eyes and looked straight at Sect Master Lei Xing. His eyes were filled with mockery. Sect Master Lei Xing, this is the real lightning. What do you think? Sect Master Lei Xing's heart was in turmoil, but he still said expressionlessly, Mad Southern Yi, as long as you're willing to stop, I'm willing to respect you as the master of Kunlun Ruins. I don't need anyone to admit that I'm the master of Kunlun Ruins because anyone who's unwilling to admit it will die. Yi Chen smiled proudly. A hint of struggle flashed across Sect Master Lei Xing's face when he heard that. Subsequently, a strange arc appeared on his face. Mad Southern Yi. Do you really think you've won? P.S. Chapter 4, that's all. I've posted a picture of Peerless Ye's character. It was hand-drawn by a big sister. Follow me if you want to see it. Chapter 925. Mad Southern Yi. Do you really think you've won? The smile on Sect Master Lei Xing's face became weirder and weirder. He did not feel any sense of danger after 5 of the 6 Supreme Sect Masters were killed, and he was the only one left. As soon as he finished speaking, swoosh, 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 at that moment, numerous gazes shot towards Sect Master Lei Xing in unison. Without exception, all of their eyes were filled with nervousness. The 6 Supreme Sect Masters worked together to fight Yi Chen, but Yi Chen killed 5 of them one by one. Now, only Sect Master Lei Xing was left. If Sect Master Lei Xing died too, the consequence would be that Yi Chen would defeat all the peak almighties in the entire Kunlun Ruins alone. At that time, what he said would come true. He would step on the Kunlun Ruins beneath his feet, and the Kunlun Ruins would have no choice but to submit. This was also the reason why the other Supreme Giants did not fight other than the 6 Supreme Sect Masters. It was because everyone knew that the true peak combat power was above Yi Chen and the 6 Supreme Sect Masters. Only they could decide the chaos that shook the entire Kunlun Ruins. I'll give you a chance to live now. Yi Chen placed his hands behind his back and lifted his hand to remove the annihilation formation. A gleam flashed through his eyes. Use whatever techniques you have. Otherwise, you'll definitely die here today. He actually removed the killing formation? The spectators outside could not believe their eyes when they saw that. One had to know that Yi Chen had relied on that killing formation to kill the 5 Supreme Sect Masters. Wasn't he afraid that the 50 Supreme Giants organized by the 6 High Sects would attack? Moreover, there were only 20 Supreme Giants from the Witchcraft Sect, Corpse Sect, and the 7 Ancient Clans. The Supreme Giants from the Dao Sect in the distance secretly looked at each other and saw killing intent in each other's eyes. Meanwhile, the 20 Supreme Giants in Yi Chen's camp could not help but become nervous. They stared at the 50 Supreme Giants opposite them. They would not stand by and watch if they attacked Yi Chen. Mad Southern Yi, don't be too smug. Sect Master Lei Xing's extremely gloomy voice shook the void, and the veins on his forehead twitched violently. Do you really think I don't have any tricks up my sleeves? A hint of determination flashed through his eyes, and then he suddenly grabbed at the air with his right hand. Brush, come! Buzz! At that moment, the air violently trembled. Then, under everyone's gazes, a crystal pen with an iron pen and a silver hook appeared out of thin air beside him. The shaft of the brush was neither gold nor jade, neither copper nor iron. The tip of the brush breathed in and out spiritual energy, revealing its sharpness. It was like a divine weapon, and it emitted a domineering pressure as if it wanted to suppress the sky. With the appearance of this brush, all the spiritual energy in the world gathered towards it, causing a vacuum with a radius of 10,000 feet to appear. In that instant, everyone's expressions changed. Their hearts trembled as if the depths of their souls were trembling. One of the supreme giants present cried out in shock. What kind of brush is this? Why is there such a huge pressure? Tao artifact. This brush must be a legendary Tao artifact. A Tao artifact that can only be refined after a saint has achieved the Tao. Another supreme giant said while shivering. As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked. Tao artifact. This term was too ancient, but its existence was the symbol of the ancient saints illuminating the world. As for the saints, ever since the Kunlun ruins suffered a great calamity 500 years ago, the great Tao was incomplete, and the end of days had arrived. The saints had long disappeared from this world, along with their civilization. I didn't expect Sect Master Lei Xing to have a Tao artifact. A supreme giant of the Devil Sect felt his soul tremble, and then he said, "If that's the case, I'm afraid Mad Southern Yi will die on the spot. The Sect Master is invincible." After the crystal pen appeared, the disciples of the Tao sect who were already in despair could not help but be energized, and joy appeared on their faces. The Witchcraft Sect Master took a deep breath in and said while gritting his teeth, "This ox nose really knows how to hide. Prepare to let the Peak Master escape." Elder Qing Xian shook his head slightly. No one knew how powerful a Tao artifact was, but it was enough to know that it was the symbol of a saint illuminating the world. Yi Chen turned a blind eye to the reactions of the people around him. He stared fixedly at the crystal pen in Sect Master Lei Xing's hand as lightning flashed through his eyes. Night Demon's cursing voice sounded in his mind. "Master, it's that old bastard, Emperor Brush. It's really that old B*****starred. Even Yi Wushuang, who had transformed into a sword in Yi Chen's hand, trembled slightly. Clearly, even his heart was in turmoil. "Ah!" Sect Master Lei Xing's proud voice sounded. "Mad Southern Yi, do you know what this brush in my hand is? I'm not afraid to tell you that this brush is a Tao artifact." Before Yi Chen could speak, he sneered maniacally. "It's something refined by the ancient saints after they achieved enlightenment." He glared at Yi Chen with a grim gaze. His eyes were filled with killing intent. "I've always liked to hold back when I do things. I didn't expect you to force me to use it today." In ancient times, there were scholars who achieved enlightenment through Confucianism. Their brushes shocked the wind and rain, their poems wept ghosts and gods, and their words suppressed the universe. Sect Master Lei Xing's long hair was in a mess as he shouted, "Today, I'll borrow the Tao artifact to imitate the saints' actions and suppress the mountains and rivers with my brush." As soon as he said that, he suddenly reached out and grabbed the crystal brush. All the true origin energy in his body was channeled into the crystal brush crazily. "The Tao artifact has a spirit. Please help me kill this bastard. After this is done, I'll definitely let you enjoy the incense offerings of this world." Sect Master Lei Xing's voice was like thunder, rumbling and shaking. At the next moment, a mighty aura of the great Tao suddenly erupted from the crystal brush. Too terrifying! Is this the might of a Tao artifact? Everyone was shocked when they saw this scene. Sect Master Lei Xing was overjoyed. He knew that the spirituality in the crystal brush had acknowledged his word. Then, he took a deep breath in and picked up the brush with his hand. Using the void as paper, he began to draw. He exerted all his strength, drawing with great vigor. Every stroke of the brush, starting and ending, brimming with vigor. Then, he suddenly raised his brush, and a 3-meter-wide thundercloud diagram appeared before him. The thundercloud diagram soared into the sky. Rumble, as soon as the painting rose into the sky, it disappeared into the clouds. At that moment the weather changed. A violent wind blew, a torrential rain fell, and thunder rumbled and lightning flashed. In an instant, countless people raised their heads at the same time. Their gazes shot into the sky, and they were shocked by the scene before them. A mere painting had caused such a commotion. It was shocking. "Mad Southern Yi, my Tao Sect's lightning technique can't hurt you. I wonder if the lightning summoned by this brush can hurt you." Sect Master Lei Xing pointed at Yi Chen suddenly with a ferocious expression. Go to hell. Rumble, countless bolts of lightning descended from the sky. They pointed at Yi Chen. Chapter 926. As expected of a Tao artifact refined by a saint. Such heavenly might is simply not something a human can resist. Mad Southern Yi will definitely die this time. At that moment, the world seemed to have stopped, and countless people's gazes froze. Sect Master is invincible. Among the spectators, a supreme Tao sect giant's eyes were filled with resentment. He seemed to have seen Yi Chen being killed by the lightning that covered the sky and earth. Even though the Ghoul sect's supreme giant was unwilling to admit it, he still said, after this battle, Sect Master Lei Xing will be the #1 person in the Kunlun ruins. Sect Master is invincible. Many Tao sect disciples shouted in ecstasy. However, at that moment, they realized that the countless bolts of lightning that were approaching Yi Chen suddenly turned. Everyone was stunned. Oh no! When a few supreme giants reacted, the smiles on their faces froze, and they subconsciously wanted to escape. Rumble, rumble, however, the lightning had already descended. Then, a series of earth-shattering explosions rang out. In less than a breath's time, many people in the Tao sect's camp were burnt to a crisp. The countless bolts of lightning seemed to be deliberately targeting the people from the Tao sect's camp. They descended from the sky and struck down crazily. This scene was like iron plows descending from the sky, plowing through many of the Tao sect's camp members who were standing nearby. Countless people were struck by the lightning and died on the spot. They did not even have the time to scream. The place where they stood was even more cracked, and a raging fire broke out. Even the supreme giants were no exception. More than 10 people died in the bolts of lightning, and the rest who survived were in a sorry state. In Yi Chen's camp, the people from the Witchcraft sect, Corpse sect, and the 7 ancient clans watched that scene with their mouths agape. Wasn't Sect Master Lei Xing the one who summoned the lightning to deal with Yi Chen? Why did it suddenly change direction and land in the Tao sect's camp? The strangest thing was that they were less than 30 meters away from the Tao sect's camp, but the overwhelming lightning did not cover them at all. At that moment, an Emperor stage cultivator from the Tao sect's camp ran towards them. Before they could attack, another bolt of lightning struck and shattered that person on the spot. What's going on? Sect Master Lei Xing looked at this scene with his eyes wide open, as if he had seen a ghost. The person he wanted to hack was Yi Chen. Why did the lightning only target the people from the Tao sect's camp, especially the people from the Tao sect? In just a few breaths of time, more than half of his Tao Gate's 10,000+ disciples had been lost, and such a scene truly pained his heart. Sect Master Lei Xing, is this your method? Yi Chen watched everything quietly. A strange smile appeared on his face. But why are you attacking people from your Tao sect? One of the surviving martial exalted realm experts beat his chest and stamped his feet, and he was on the verge of fainting. Tao Master, we're all your disciples and grand disciples. Why do you want to kill us? The people from the demon sect glared at Sect Master Lei Xing. Sect Master Lei Xing, are you crazy? Got it. The supreme powerhouse of the Ghoul sect gritted his teeth and said, Old Lei Xing wants to borrow the might of the Tao artifact to eliminate us so that he can unify the Kunlun ruins later. Old Lei Xing, you're despicable and shameless. You'll die a horrible death. For a moment, the people from the 5 high sects in the Tao sect's camp cursed at Sect Master Lei Xing. No, I didn't. Sect Master Lei Xing roared. No, you did. Yi Chen interrupted him and said with a forced smile, as expected of an old monster who has lived for hundreds of years. You actually used the excuse of killing me to kill your allies and your own people. As soon as he said that, the scolding became even more intense. Mad Southern Yi, don't try to sow discord. Sect Master Lei Xing roared and waved the crystal pen in his hand again, drawing a meteorite painting in the air. As soon as the painting of the mountain rose into the air, it caused an extremely violent tremor in the air. The sky changed color. Suddenly, streams of khaki-colored air currents soared into the sky from the dozens of mountain peaks within the Dao sect. Then, they turned into sharp and heavy meteorites. The meteorites soared through the sky, wanting to suppress the heavens. Subsequently, Sect Master Lei Xing pointed at Yi Chen from afar. I made a mistake earlier. Let's see if you'll die now. Bang, 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 huge meteorites descended from the sky with long tongues of fire. They tore through the sky and suppressed the people from the Dao sect's camp. For a moment, screams could be heard. Many people were smashed to death on the spot. Some had their brains split open, while others were smashed into meat pies. They could not be more dead. Old man Lei Xing, when Mad Southern Yi said that you were ambitious and wanted to take the opportunity to get rid of us, I didn't believe it. Now I completely believe it. A supreme giant of the Star sect felt his heart bleed when he saw that half of his people had died. The Star sect is irreconcilable with you. How is this possible? Sect Master Lei Xing's eyes widened in disbelief. No, impossible. He suddenly took a few steps back. Then, he seemed to have thought of something. I know, the attack of a Dao artifact is reversed. Yi Chen panicked immediately. Are you sure? Yes, that must be it. Sect Master Lei Xing was extremely confident. Otherwise, why would they attack our Dao sect's camp one after another? Ha ha, I'm really a genius. After saying that, he raised his brush and drew again. Before he could finish drawing, the expressions of countless people in the Dao sect's camp changed drastically. They could not care less about cursing and turned into streaks of light that shot into the distance without saying a word. A thundercloud diagram shot straight into the clouds. This time, Sect Master Lei Xing did not point at Yi Chen. Instead, he pointed at the Dao sect's camp. Rumble, countless bolts of lightning landed on the Dao sect's camp. At that moment, the thousands of people in the Dao sect's camp who did not make it in time died. Not a single one was left. Meanwhile, Yi Chen was still standing there unscathed. When the 1,000 people who had escaped saw this scene, they rejoiced and almost fainted. Sect Master Lei Xing was dumbfounded. Ah! Yi Chen could not help but laugh. Sect Master Lei Xing, I have to say that you're a genius. Until now, he still hasn't realized that all of this was caused by that old cunning brush, Emperor Brush. Night Demon's laughter rang next to Yi Chen's ears. He even thought he was smart and came up with some reverse effect. Blech! Sect Master Lei Xing could not help but spit a mouthful of blood under the rage in his heart. He looked at the crystal brush in his hand with incomparable resentment. It was you, wasn't it? Why? I'll answer this question for you. Yi Chen took a step forward and smiled lightly. It's simple. Because I'm its master. As soon as he finished speaking, he grabbed at the crystal brush and shouted like thunder, Emperor Brush, what are you waiting for? Chapter 9:27. Emperor Brush, when was it going to return? As soon as Yi Chen said that, the crystal brush in Sect Master Lei Xing's hand seemed to have sensed something. It shot out from Sect Master Lei Xing's hand and turned into a purple energy that landed in Yi Chen's hand. The brush trembled slightly as if it was excited. At the same time, it emitted a heavy aura that was even heavier than a mountain. It was as if it wanted to crush the sky. At that instant, the entire heavens and the earth went silent, and everyone practically didn't dare believe everything that had happened before their eyes. What did they hear? Yi Chen was the master of this Dao artifact? In other words, Yi Chen was really the reincarnation of a saint? How is this possible? The thousands of people from the Dao sect who had fled earlier and were watching from afar trembled in disbelief. The heavens are going to destroy the Kunlun ruins. At that moment, countless people collapsed to the ground. Yi Chen could kill the 5 supreme sect masters without a Dao artifact. Now that he had a Dao artifact, who could stop him in the Kunlun ruins? Master, something's wrong. At that moment, Night Demon's voice rang out. The old sinister brush's artifact spirit isn't here. I sensed it too. Yi Chen held Emperor Brush lightly and frowned. He did not sense the Emperor Brush's artifact spirit from the brush. There was only a trace of remnant spirituality. I understand now. Night Demon came to a realization. No wonder the old sinister brush didn't acknowledge Wushuang when he came to the Dao sect last time. It's because his artifact spirit isn't in the brush at all. Ever since Big Brother came to the Dao sect, Emperor Brush didn't appear immediately. Its spirituality is too weak, Yi Wushuang said solemnly. The old sinister brush is really the old sinister brush. Although the artifact spirit is gone, the remaining trace of spirituality has inherited his sinister personality. Night Demon chuckled, as if he was gloating. Don't tell me this old dog is going to die from the smash. I don't think so. Yi Chen shook his head lightly and looked at Sect Master Lei Xing in the distance. This person must know. I'll know what's going on after I capture him. With that, he took a step forward. Sect Master Lei Xing's expression changed drastically when he saw that. He no longer had the determination to fight Yi Chen. Like a stray dog, he charged into Heaven Dao Peak in a panic. Sect Master Lei Xing, go in. Yi Chen chased after him relentlessly. Sect Master Lei Xing was horrified. After entering the Heaven Dao Peak, he immediately shouted at the disciple on duty, Quickly activate the formation. Boom! Seeing that Yi Chen was coming after them, the disciples on duty at Tiandao Peak were reluctant to hesitate. They immediately worked together to activate the peak protection formation of the entire Tiandao Peak. Along with a loud noise, pillars of light shot into the sky and enveloped the entire Heaven Dao Peak. At the same time, more than 10 figures with powerful auras shot out from the Heaven Dao Peak one after another. These people were all old men over 300 years old. Every single one of them was a supreme giant. Even though the entire Dao sect told the outside world that they had over 10 supreme giants, there were actually some powerhouses who were in closed-door cultivation. Unless the sect was in danger, they would usually not come out of closed-door cultivation, but now they had no choice but to do so. Sect Master Lei Xing's hair was disheveled as he shouted repeatedly, Supreme Elders, work together to maintain the formation. Don't let this fiend break in. Otherwise, our Dao sect will be in danger. As soon as he said that, the dozen or so supreme giants sat down cross-legged. Their auras pierced through the sky as they worked together to maintain the formation. At the same time, Sect Master Lei Xing took out 3 incense sticks and ignited them in the air. He held the 3 incense sticks in his hand and bowed solemnly towards the depths of the Broken Soul mountain range. Then, he knelt on one knee and shouted at the top of his lungs, Guardian of my Kunlun ruins, Saint Ziqing-tsang, my Kunlun ruins is facing a great calamity today. Please help me get rid of this calamity. As soon as he finished speaking, the 3 incense sticks burned at a speed visible to the naked eye. Then, the smoke actually gathered together and turned into a purple dragon that tore through the sky and disappeared into the horizon. This series of events was completed in the blink of an eye. Sect Master Lei Xing stood up and looked at Yi Chen through the formation. Mad Southern Yi, do you know why there hasn't been a so-called number 1 person or master in the Kunlun ruins all these years? The moment that was said, the people from the Witchcraft sect and Corpse sect were shocked. The Witchcraft sect's sect master seemed to have thought of something and immediately cried out, because there's actually a number 1 person in the Kunlun ruins. After saying that, he suddenly looked in the direction of the Broken Soul mountain range and Purple Cap Mountain and muttered, in other words, the person from Purple Cap Mountain is the number 1 person in the Kunlun ruins? Wu Tianho, you've finally reacted. Sect Master Lei Xing smirked coldly. 500 years ago, the Kunlun ruins encountered a great calamity, causing the path of a saint to be cut off. However, in these 500 years, someone has quietly become a saint. Not only is this person the number 1 hidden person in the Kunlun ruins, but he's also the guardian of the Kunlun ruins. As his voice fell, silence reigned between heaven and earth. Ever since the great calamity 500 years ago caused the path of a saint to be cut off, there were still saints in the Kunlun ruins. Moreover, this person was in Purple Cap Mountain. I get it, I get it. Wu Tianhou smiled bitterly and said, no wonder you risked your life to go up Purple Cap Mountain when you were still a destitute young man. More than 300 years ago, Sect Master Lei Xing was still a scholar without any cultivation aptitude. However, ever since he came out of Purple Cap Mountain, he established the Tao sect in a short 300 years and became a supreme giant. In the entire Kunlun ruins, no one could compare to Sect Master Lei Xing in terms of lifespan. Ordinary supreme giants could live for 300 years at most. However, Sect Master Lei Xing had lived for almost 400 years, which was almost 100 years longer than the others. He knew more secrets than the others. Thinking to this point, the hearts of Wu Tianhou and the rest gradually sank. Since there was a saint in the Kunlun ruins, and Sect Master Lei Xing had sent a message to the saint earlier. If this saint attacked, Yi Chen would definitely not be his match. The good situation before him would be gone in an instant. Elder Qin Xian and the rest also realized this, and their hearts could not help but rise to their throats. Mad Southern Yi, did you hear that? Sect Master Lei Xing turned to look at Yi Chen. His eyes were filled with resentment. Ever since you entered the Kunlun ruins, you've committed too many sins. You've repeatedly challenged the old saint's bottom line. You don't even know that you're in trouble. Even if you have a Tao artifact, even if you're the reincarnation of a saint, you're still not a saint. At this point, a cold glint surged in his eyes. As long as I use the formation to stall for time until the old saint arrives, you'll definitely die. Saint? Yi Chen chuckled softly when he heard that. He seemed to be disdainful. How can the number one person in a small place like the Kunlun ruins be called a saint? He took a deep breath in and changed the topic. Besides, do you really think I can't break your turtle shell? Chapter 928. For some reason, Sect Master Lei Xing had a bad feeling when he saw Yi Chen's confident smile. However, he then smirked coldly. I learned this formation from the old saint. It's purely wishful thinking for you to break it. At the next moment, Yi Chen arrived before the formation in one step and waved the emperor brush in his hand. The brush moved like a dragon and snake suppressing 1,000 mountains. The ink fell and the paper fell. The smoke and clouds swallowed the ocean. When the brush was raised, a huge word disintegrate appeared in the air. The moment the word was formed, the air trembled. Rumble. A series of loud noises came from the void, seemingly passing through countless star domains. Rumble. As the loud noises got closer and closer, the space before Yi Chen began to explode. The rocks on the ground were all turned into dust. It was as if a huge invisible millstone was crushing down from the sky. Everywhere it passed, everything was destroyed. The mountains collapsed and shattered. Rocks floated into the air as if an earth-shattering earthquake had occurred. What happened? The sudden scene caused their expressions to change. Sensing that they were the center of the change, Sect Master Lei Xing's eyelids twitched. Hold on, hold on. Rumble, however, at the next moment. Under the shocked gazes of Sect Master Lei Xing and the rest, the formation that they were extremely proud of collapsed. At that moment, countless people were petrified. Wu Tianhou and the rest were so shocked that their eyeballs almost popped out. The power of this word is so great. The Tao Sect's peak protection formation could not be broken even if dozens of supreme giants attacked it together. However, it was broken by the word disintegrate that Yi Chen wrote. There was nothing more shocking than that. After the formation was broken, Yi Chen descended on the Tao Heaven Peak like a peerless god of death. He glanced at Sect Master Lei Xing and the rest coldly. Did you learn this from the saint? If one took a closer look, they would notice that his face was slightly pale. The reason was that he could not unleash the true power of Emperor Brush with his golden core true origin. It consumed too much true origin. He's exhausted. When Sect Master Lei Xing noticed this, his face instantly lit up with joy. Kill him, quickly! It was only now that he recalled that he had used up too much primordial qi when he first obtained the Emperor brush. Kill! Killing intent surged in the eyes of a supreme giant. A sword suddenly appeared in his hand, and he stepped forward, causing the void to tremble. Suppress! Yi Chen did not panic at all. He held the Emperor brush in his hand and drew the word suppress in the air. As soon as the word suppress was formed, a rumbling sound rang out in the void. The word immediately expanded in the wind and pressed down like a huge mountain. A bloody mist exploded in the air. The supreme giant was crushed to death on the spot. The onlookers were all terrified. It was just the word suppress. To kill a supreme giant. Meanwhile, Yi Chen's face turned even paler. He is indeed strong in appearance but weak in reality. Sect Master Lei Xing roared again, let's attack together. He won't be able to hold on for long. Boom. At that moment, over 10 supreme giants, including Sect Master Lei Xing, unleashed their cultivation base at the same time. Origin energy surged like an ocean as they charged at Yi Chen. Die. Sect Master Lei Xing summoned a flying sword. Streaks of sword qi tore through the air. Every sword qi streaked through the air like a torrent of sword qi. Fire. Yi Chen waved the word fire as he walked. As soon as the word fire was formed, a sea of fire appeared out of thin air. The air within a radius of 300 meters was completely devoured, and the blazing high temperature caused the space to tremble. Oh no! Sect Master Lei Xing's expression changed, and then he abruptly withdrew his sword before retreating explosively without saying a word. However, the dozen or so supreme giants were not so lucky. They were enveloped by the sea of fire that surged over. At that moment, countless people on fire jumped up and down in the sea of fire, as if they wanted to extinguish the flames on their bodies. However, Yi Chen's fire was not an ordinary fire. It was the Samadhi true fire. Not only could it burn through flesh and blood, but it could also refine souls. Is he still human? The people in the distance watched this scene with fear on their faces. There was only deep fear in their hearts. To them, Yi Chen had completely surpassed the realm of a human. Otherwise, how could he have unleashed such a heaven-defying divinity? After a few breaths of time, the fire dissipated, and figures made of ashes appeared on the ground. The dozen or so supreme giants were scared out of their wits. Yi Chen lifted his head and looked at Sect Master Lei Xing, who had retreated far away. His gaze was cold and emotionless. What else do you have to say now? No. Sect Master Lei Xing roared. Mad Southern Yi, you can't kill me. I'm an in-name disciple of the saint. You can't kill me. Disciple? Yi Chen smiled in disdain. I don't care if you're a disciple or a boy. Even a god can't save you today. Mad Southern Yi, let me go. Sect Master Lei Xing, who was in a desperate situation, finally panicked. I'm willing to respect you as my master. I'm willing to offer my sect's hundreds of years of inheritance. I also have a shocking secret. It's too late. Yi Chen shook his head lightly and charged at him in a flash. Sect Master Lei Xing's expression changed drastically as he slapped him immediately. Mountain. The word mountain appeared in the air, and then a huge mountain descended from the sky, directly suppressing Sect Master Lei Xing. Sect Master Lei Xing's legs and arms were severed. Only his body was suppressed under the mountain as he screamed. At the critical moment, he actually took the initiative to abandon his physical body. His soul shot out from his physical body as if he wanted to escape the suppression of the mountain. However, that was the moment Yi Chen had been waiting for. He extended his hand and grabbed at his soul directly. No! Sect Master Lei Xing's soul was extremely terrified. Just when Yi Chen's hand was about to touch his soul, a huge hand suddenly reached out from the void and took Sect Master Lei Xing's soul away. Yi Chen was not surprised at all. Instead, He lifted his head abruptly and looked straight into the void. He scoffed. You finally can't help but attack? Just as everyone was looking around, a faint sigh came from the void. Fellow, why are you so ruthless? I'm sorry, but I don't like to leave any loose ends. I've always believed in eliminating the root. Death is like an extinguished lamp. Yi Chen placed his hands behind his back as his voice reverberated like thunder. Fellow, your talent is extraordinary. To be able to grow to such an extent in the secular world, I believe you must be a saint before the great calamity. The owner of the sai spoke again. 500 years ago, there was a great calamity in the world. I believe you should know better than me why the path of a saint was severed. Since that's the case, why are you still killing the living forces of my Kunlun ruins? P.S. Chapter 4, updated today. Chapter 929. Since that's the case, why are you still killing the living forces of my Kunlun ruins? On Dao Sek's Heaven Dao Peak, the incomparably old voice resounded through the air. The owner of the voice seemed to have come from an extremely ancient era. Vicissitudes, ancient, dignified, for a moment, numerous gazes kept sizing up the sky with nervous expressions, as if they wanted to find out who the speaker was. However, to their disappointment, there was no one in the sky. There were only echoes from all directions. This person probably didn't descend here. Otherwise, he would have appeared long ago. If I'm not wrong, this is a voice transmission. The witchcraft sect master Wu Tianho muttered to himself. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something. Saint, he must be the saint of Purple Cap Mountain. Everyone's expressions changed when they heard that. They did not expect the saint to protect sect master Lei Xing. Stop talking about the great calamity. Yi Chen stood in the wind. His long hair danced in the wind, and his eyes were about to destroy the world. I only know that sect master Lei Xing gathered 5 supreme giants to kill me. It's not wrong for me to fight back. Looks like you haven't completely awakened your memories from your previous life. Otherwise, you wouldn't have said what you said today, the old voice sighed faintly. As soon as he said that, everyone looked at Yi Chen differently again. Now, even the saint admitted it. As expected, Mad Southern Yi was really the reincarnation of a saint. In that case, it was not surprising that he had grown so quickly from the secular world to where he was today. It's useless to say that. Yi Chen scoffed. I'll give you a chance now. Give me sect master Lei Xing's soul. Otherwise, there'll be a battle between us. What? He wants to fight a saint? How dare he? An uproar broke out between heaven and earth. No one expected Yi Chen to take the initiative to provoke a saint after fighting the 6 supreme sect masters. Lei Xing has the chance to become a saint. You can't kill him. The voice sounded again with a hint of displeasure. Fellow, I don't want to fight you. Why are you being so aggressive? If you don't hand it over to me, I'll kill my way into Purple Cap Mountain, kill your disciples, destroy your orthodoxy, and drag you out no matter what. Yi Chen did not back down at all. His eyes were cold. Fine. The voice sighed again. 3 days later, I'll be waiting for you at Purple Cap Mountain. We'll fight above the 9 heavens. As soon as he said that, the void returned to its usual calmness. At the same time, on Purple Cap Mountain, there was a mountain. This mountain could not be seen, but it truly existed. Even if one were to walk past it, they would directly pass through it without feeling anything strange. Within the mountain sat a boy dressed in white with his hair combed into a bun. The boy was only 13 or 14 years old, but he had a head full of white hair. In the end, it can't be avoided. The boy opened his eyes. There was an ancient intent in his eyes, and he was holding Sect Master Lei Xing's soul in his hand. Sect Master Lei Xing's soul was still in shock. Master, that brat was so rude. Why didn't you kill him just now? You don't understand. The boy shook his head slightly, and his eyes were like the deep night sky. In order to save you, I've already used up 10 years of my life force. Sect Master Lei Xing did not understand what he meant. Then, he realized that the boy's skin was aging at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was as if he had aged 10 years in an instant. Master, could it be that you're still unable to break through the shackles of heaven and earth? Sect Master Lei Xing was shocked. Shackles of heaven and earth? The boy sighed faintly. What are shackles? If one spirit doesn't exist, a single move will affect the entire body. Being trapped in this small corner is a shackle. This brat's talent is unparalleled. He's the most monstrous person I've ever seen. I might not be his match. Then, he said slowly, Lei Xing, leave. We're master and disciple, and our relationship ends here. Where can I run to? Sect Master Lei Xing's soul smiled bitterly. I'd better stay by Master's side. If Master isn't his match, I'm willing to die. Almost at that instant, on Dao Sec's Heaven Dao Peak, with the departure of the Saint of Purple Cap Mountain, the earth-shattering battle finally came to an end. The world was silent. Countless people looked at the figure standing proudly in the air. Their gazes froze and their breathing stopped. Before this, Yi Chen had said that he would suppress the Kunlun ruins alone. Some people did not believe him, some sneered, but most people were disdainful. However, he had done it now. 5 of the 6 supreme sect masters had died, and one of them was miserable. The 6 high sects had lost more than 40 supreme giants, and the elite disciples under them were almost wiped out. All of this was done by the person before him. He had suppressed the entire Kunlun ruins alone. What was invincibility? This was the true power of invincibility. In the distance, Hua Ling and the rest were so excited that their eyes were brimming with tears. He won, he won. The Peak Master won. Elder Qing Xian heaved a sigh of relief. On the other hand, the people of the 9th Peak were extremely excited. They looked at Yi Chen with burning eyes as if they were looking at an undefeatable legend. On the other hand, the Witchcraft Sect, Corpse Sect, and the 7 ancient clans were extremely glad. Before this, they subconsciously thought that it was impossible for Yi Chen to do that. However, the scene before them made them feel lucky for their previous choice. This guy Luo Shuiyao, who was from the 7 ancient clans, was stunned. She did not know how to describe it, so she could only say, "What a freak!" It could be said that she had come into contact with Yi Chen earlier than anyone else in the Kunlun ruins. She had witnessed Yi Chen's growth. I'm not as good as him. Luo Tianyao laughed self-deprecatingly. He had an inexplicable feeling in his heart, but there was no hostility in his eyes. At that moment, Yi Chen descended from the sky and looked down at the remaining people from Dao Sect coldly. Are you guys convinced? His words were like rolling thunder, causing the hearts of the people from Dao Sect to tremble. They did not dare to resist at all. One of the remaining supreme giants of the Dao Sect smiled bitterly and bowed. We're convinced, convinced. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The Dao Sect disciples behind him immediately bowed and knelt on the ground, saying in unison, We're convinced. In this battle, their Dao Sect had suffered the most losses. The supreme giants were almost wiped out, and the most powerful person, Sect Master Lei Xing, had his body severed and his soul almost destroyed. How could they not be convinced? When Yi Chen glanced at the rest of the people from the 5 high sects, the crowd immediately knelt down. We're convinced as well. A series of voices rose and fell like a tsunami, causing the space to tremble and rustle. Yi Chen placed his hands behind his back. His black hair, black eyes, and long hair fluttered in the wind. He was like the reincarnation of a god. Everyone lowered their heads when they saw him. Chapter 932. Kungsu Calendar, December 25, 2019. Yi Chen killed the 6 Supreme Sect Masters on Heaven Dao Peak and killed dozens of Supreme Giant. He suppressed the Kunlun ruins by himself and challenged a saint. Mad Southern Yi led the 9th Peak to destroy dozens of sects. The Corpse Sect Master escaped with heavy injuries. The Corpse Sect has collectively submitted. As soon as the Dao Sect's battle came to an end, the news about the battle spread at an extremely crazy speed. Countless people were stunned. They did not believe it at first. However, before they could react, another piece of heavy news spread. We've lost, we've lost. This earth-shattering battle that has gathered the strongest power of the Kunlun ruins and concerns the future of the Kunlun ruins has been defeated. 5 of the 6 supreme sect masters died, and 1 died miserably. Only sect master Lei Xing's soul escaped. Nearly 50 supreme giants of the 6 high sects were almost annihilated by mad Southern Yi. This news was like a huge iron plow that plowed through the entire Kunlun ruins. How is this possible? Oh my God, those are the 6 supreme sect masters. All of them are old monsters who have lived for hundreds of years. Every single one of them represents the peak combat power of the Kunlun ruins, yet mad Southern Yi actually killed 5 of them? Almost at that moment, countless forces in the entire Kunlun ruins felt like their guts were going to explode. They almost could not believe their ears. Mad Southern Yi is too terrifying. I really can't imagine that an ant from the secular world could grow to such an extent. A supreme giant who did not go to watch the battle rejoiced repeatedly. A powerhouse beat his chest and stomped his feet as he wailed, "From today onwards, the Kunlun ruins has officially entered the era of Mad Southern Yi. This person has done something that no one has done before." No, there's still hope for the Kunlun ruins. Someone's face was filled with indignation. Get up, fellow Taoists who don't want to be slaves. As long as we unite and fight, we can still fight Mad Southern Yi. However, no one responded to him. What kind of joke was this? Even the 6 high sects were no match for Mad Southern Yi. What was the use of scattered troops like them? Right at this moment, an earth-shattering news spread. There's still an old saint in the Kunlun ruins. The old saint is the master of Purple Cap Mountain. It was the old saint who saved sect master Lei Xing's soul. The old saint has agreed to fight Mad Southern Yi. 3 days later, the 2 of them will fight above the 9 heavens. There's still hope for the Kunlun ruins. The news spread like a clap of thunder. It shook heaven and earth, and the commotion was no less than Yi Chen's popularity. What? After the great calamity 500 years ago in our Kunlun ruins, there was actually a saint who survived? How is this possible? Wasn't the path of the sage cut off after the great calamity? Haven't all the sages died a long time ago? Some experts who had lived for a long time were shocked, their eyes filled with disbelief. This matter is absolutely true. Could it be that all of you have forgotten that sect master Lei Xing entered Purple Cap Mountain over 300 years ago? An insider explained, the truth is out now. Sect master Lei Xing is the old saint's in-name disciple. Okay. Many people were overjoyed when they heard that the heavens really haven't forsaken our Kunlun ruins. The old saint has made a move. How can Mad Southern Yi survive this time? Let's go to Purple Cap Mountain together in 3 days. We'll witness Mad Southern Yi being suppressed by the old saint and witness the might of a saint. Let's go together. On the 26th of the 12th month of the year 2019 in the Kunlun Ruins calendar, there were still 4 days before the new year. Yi Chen was in the Tao sect's secret palace. The so-called secret palace was the Tao sect's most private treasure vault. All the peerless treasures that the Tao sect had accumulated over the past few hundred years were stored inside. As far as the eye could see, there were mountains of medicinal pills, spirit stones, origin stones, talismans, and all sorts of secret treasures. If any of these items were to be placed in the outside world, they would be rare treasures that would cause a bloodbath. However, Yi Chen's heart did not waver much. His gaze landed on the southeast corner of the secret palace. Over there, he actually sensed a trace of the fluctuation of a formation. This formation was incomparably brilliant. Even with his powerful divine sense, he almost missed it. Why is there a formation here? Yi Chen turned around and looked at Wu Tianhou and the rest behind him. Wu Tianhou could not explain it either. Then, he called the new person in charge of the Tao sect, Yun Lazy. Why did you set up this formation in the Dao sect's secret palace? The Yunlingzi he mentioned was sect master Lei Xing's junior brother, and also the only remaining supreme giant of the Dao sect. The other party did not dare to hesitate and immediately said while trembling, Immortal Yi, I'm not sure either. The secret palace has always been managed by senior brother sect master. Forget it. Yi Chen frowned slightly. Meanwhile, the emperor brush appeared in his hand. The void shook immediately, and a huge word dismantle appeared. Rumble, the formation then collapsed. Immediately after, a huge crater appeared in Yi Chen's line of sight. At that moment, the expressions of everyone in the secret palace changed. This was because when the formation was broken, an extremely dense stench of blood immediately spread out from the deep pit. The stench of blood was also mixed with dense resentment. What a powerful stench of blood! Even though Yi Chen's hands were covered in blood, his expression changed at that moment. Wait for me here. I'll go down and take a look. After saying that, his body swayed and he entered the deep crater. The crater was about 300 meters deep. There were no stairs that he could use to borrow strength from. However, with Yi Chen's cultivation base, he naturally did not need to borrow strength. What shocked him was that the deeper he went, the denser the stench of blood and resentment became. It was almost to the point that it could bewitch one's mind. What he did not know was that the moment he broke the formation, Purple Cap Mountain, which was like a dead boy, suddenly opened its eyes. The boy shook his head and sighed faintly. In the end, this person still sensed it. A few breaths later, Yi Chen arrived at the bottom of the crater. A huge platform came into view immediately. There was an altar with a radius of 300 meters on the platform. The altar was circular, like the 8 trigrams of Taoism. The middle was sunken, and there were 8 decaying bodies sitting on the 8 positions. These 8 bodies had died a long time ago. The blood in their bodies had dried up, but their skin and flesh had not decayed. The backs of the corpses were extremely straight, like true dragons soaring into the sky. Even so, the 8 corpses still emitted a dense pressure. It was an aura that seemed to be able to destroy the world. When Yi Chen walked closer and was less than 30 meters away from them, the corpse closest to him suddenly trembled. Then, a brilliant light surged. An extremely terrifying killing intent shot out from the corpse and suppressed Yi Chen. Divine radiance surged from Yi Chen's body. The night demon armor protected him automatically. Bang! When the killing intent suppressed the night demon armor, Yi Chen heard the old demon's muffled groan and the sound of the armor shattering. Saint corpse! Night demon grunted, Master, this must be a saint corpse. Chapter 933. The sudden scene caused Yi Chen to stop in his tracks. He fixed his gaze on the corpse that attacked him earlier, the corpse of a saint? At that moment, the corpse's body shone brightly like a god. It emitted an extreme pressure as if it wanted to make everything submit. If Sect Master Lei Xing and the other Supreme Sect Masters were present, they would definitely be suppressed to death by such a terrifying pressure. I wasn't afraid of you when you were alive, let alone the so-called remaining power after you're dead. Yi Chen scoffed coldly. Subsequently, a faint divine radiance surged on his body. His skin and bones became crystal clear at that moment, like a saint's body. Subsequently, he endured the pressure emitted by the saint corpse and strode forward. He raised his eyes and sized up the entire altar. On the altar that was close to 300 meters tall, the 8 saint corpses were chained by pitch-black chains. Most of them were pierced by the chains at their pelvises. Apart from the chains that pierced through their pelvises and the 8 saint corpses, there were 8 other chains that were connected to the center of the altar. It was the center of the 8 trigrams formation. There was a ring-shaped black and white yin-yang fish that was about 30 meters long, and the chains were embedded in the depths of the yin-yang fish. The thick stench of blood and resentment came from the depths of the pit. There was even a faint dragon roar. Kacha, when Yi Chen took a step forward, he seemed to have stepped on some mechanism. the entire altar began to shake violently. Rumble with a violent tremor, the ring-shaped black and white yin-yang fish at the center of the altar was opened. At the next moment, an extremely thick stench of blood soared into the sky, accompanied by a huge black shadow that was nearly 60 meters tall. Taking a closer look, it was a huge azure dragon. However, at this moment, the azure dragon's body was full of blood chi. The 8 iron chains had cruelly pierced through its body, and one of them was directly nailed to its heart. At that moment, the azure dragon was already on the verge of death. Its body was illusory, and its body was so shriveled that it was deformed. Clearly, too much dragon blood had been extracted. "It's a dragon." Night Demon was a little surprised. "Master, it's a dragon." "It's not a dragon." Yi Chen shook his head lightly and said while frowning, "It's a dragon vein. I didn't expect a dragon vein to be suppressed here." The reason why he was certain that it was a dragon was that although the azure dragon had blood chi, it did not have the slightest color of blood. Furthermore, its body was illusory and did not seem to have a physical body. He then looked at the 8 chains, one of which was connected to the 8 corpses and the other to the azure dragon. "What a good move!" Yi Chen scoffed after his eyes flickered a few times. He actually extracted the dragon vein and suppressed it here. He also set up the great reincarnation reversal formation. He wants to change his fate and revive the dead. He took a step forward and pointed a finger at the azure dragon's forehead. Suddenly, 2 ancient characters appeared. "Mao Mountain." Yi Chen's expression turned grim when he saw that, "Mao Shan, this dragon vein is actually Mao Shan's dragon vein. No wonder Mao Mountain isn't doing well now. There hasn't been a single mighty figure. In fact, it's gradually declining." Yi Chen smirked coldly. "It seems like it's the loss of Mao Shan's luck after the dragon vein was extracted." TSK. Night Demon smacked his lips and said, "These people are so ruthless. In order to revive themselves, they actually went to the secular world to extract a dragon vein by force. To ordinary people, the dragon vein might just be nonsense. However, in history, every emperor paid great attention to the dragon vein. This was because the dragon vein was related to the luck of a country. A place's feng shui nurtured a place's people, but a dragon vein could nurture a country's luck. During the founding of the Tang dynasty, after Emperor Gaozu Li Yuan became emperor, he invited Yuan Tiangang to search for the dragon vein. All the dragon veins that could produce an emperor with a different surname were cut off to prevent the country from being stolen by outsiders. In the cultivation world, regardless of whether it was a sect or any force, they would prioritize the location of the dragon vein when choosing a location for their sect. There were even some who would use great divinity to gather the dragon veins from all directions to benefit the common people. At that moment, the sound of chains colliding suddenly rang out. The 8 corpses sitting on the 8 positions of the 8 trigrams formation suddenly moved. Life flowed within the 8 corpses as if they were alive. Even their shriveled flesh had a crystalline luster. At the next moment, the 8 corpses opened their eyes in an extremely strange manner. Their eyes were originally empty, but in the next moment, unimaginable killing intent surged out. "The intruder die." Roars that sounded like the roars of malicious spirits interweaved. The 8 chains connected to the dragon collided with each other and charged at Yi Chen at the same time. "Even when you guys were alive, I wasn't afraid at all. Now, you're just 8 remnant spirituality. What can you do to me?" A cold gleam flashed through Yi Chen's eyes. He took a step forward and pressed his right hand into the air. Majestic true origin energy exploded instantly. With a palm strike, boom, a violent power surged in the void, and the 8 chains collapsed with a loud bang. The 8 corpses were all sent flying, and the chains clanked as they were dragged. Subsequently, the chains on the 8 corpses collapsed at the same time, allowing them to regain their freedom. They charged at Yi Chen like ferocious beasts that had awakened. "Suppress." Yi Chen held emperor brush in his hand and suppressed the air. The 8 corpses knelt on the ground with a loud bang. The killing intent on their bodies dissipated, and their heads drooped heavily. The shriveled flesh on their bodies dissipated at a speed visible to the naked eye. Soon, only 8 skeletons were left, and they scattered on the ground. These people must be the saints of the Kunlun ruins when they were alive. Yi Chen stared at the pile of skeletons on the ground and thought to himself, but why did they die? Moreover, they used a great divinity to extract the Maoshan dragon vein before they died. What exactly was the great calamity 500 years ago? Even the 8 sages are dead. After a while, he looked at the giant azure dragon lying on the ground and was about to move forward. Just as he was about to move forward, an old voice suddenly rang in his ears. "Fellow, you must not release this dragon vein." "You again?" Yi Chen's gaze turned cold. "Since when is it your turn to tell me what to do?" Before the voice could speak, a figure suddenly descended from the square. It was Wu Tianhou. "Peak Master, something big happened at the Buddhist sect." The man walked to Yi Chen's side quickly with a grim expression and said softly, "The corpse sect master took advantage of Zen Master Banra's death to kill his way into the Buddhist sect's important place. Wasn't this person severely injured by all of you? Why is he going to the Buddhist sect now?" Yi Chen secretly frowned. "I'm not sure." Wu Tianhou shook his head and said, "However, this person is extremely crazy. He controlled a drought demon and killed many Buddhist disciples. He seems to be looking for something. After this person found out that I killed many Supreme Sect Masters, not only did he not find a place to hide, but he appeared in such a high-profile manner. What he's looking for is extraordinary." Yi Chen was immediately interested. After lifting his hand to set up a formation, he led Wu Tianhou out of the Tao sect's secret palace and headed straight for the Buddhist sect. P.S. Chapter 3. I wanted to update 2 more chapters, but there's not enough time. It's already 11. Chapter 934. It was located in the south of Kunlun ruins. This place used to be an oasis in the early years, but later because of the meteor fire that fell from the sky, it became an oasis. In the end, all living things within a 1,000-mile radius became extinct and the area was filled with yellow sand all year round, which was why it was called the Kungsu Desert. As for the Buddhist sect, one of the 10 high sects in the Kunlun ruins, it was built in this yellow sand. The Buddhist sect ruled for thousands of kilometers, and there were countless believers in the Kunlun ruins. Right now, the Buddhist sect was filled with screams and cries of pain. Blood filled the air, and it was as if they had fallen into hell on earth. Bald monk Mingguang, if you still don't open your thunder sound pagoda, Luomo will kill another 10 of your Buddhist sects. A pale-faced old man glared at a white-haired old monk in front of him with a ferocious expression. His eyes were filled with a cruel smile. This person was the sect leader of Corpse Sect. Before him was a 3-meter-tall, withered corpse with an ice-cold expression. The corpse's aura soared into the sky, and the strangest thing was that there were 2 scarlet flames beneath its feet that could melt anything. Just by standing there, dark clouds had already covered the sky, triggering a celestial phenomenon. The Thunderclap Pagoda is a forbidden ground of our Buddhist sect. How can we allow you to enter? Facing the threat of the Corpse Sect's sect master, the white-haired old monk's face was filled with sorrow. Sect Master Luo, you took advantage of the death of our Buddhist sect's Zen Master Banra to control the drought demon to massacre. Aren't you afraid of incurring public anger in the Kunlun ruins? As soon as he said that, all the monks looked at the drought demon again, and their gazes were filled with deep terror. Before the Tao was born, the myriad of races cultivated the ancient Tao, nurturing a body of essence energy to hide in the flesh, defying the heavens to cultivate the tribulation. The dead often died and gave birth to evil. Their corpses died but did not decay. They were often buried underground, absorbing the baleful aura of heaven and earth to give birth, transforming into zombies. Zombies, on the other hand, were immortal. They had skin of gold and bones of steel, and were not afraid of heavenly fire. Wherever they went, 1,000 miles of barren land would be burned. They were drought demons. This 3-meter-tall monster in front of him was Hidorigami. His battle prowess was comparable to a supreme giant. In just an hour, 2 supreme giants of the Buddhist sect had died in his hands. Cause public outrage? The corpse sect master smirked. In terms of public anger, how can I compare to Mad Southern Yi? This person has almost killed all the peak combat power of the Kunlun ruins. The outsiders are still busy taking care of themselves, so how can they care about your Buddhist sect? At this point, monstrous hatred flashed through his eyes. He was the master of a sect after all, a supreme giant. In the end, his 3 golden-armored corpses had been destroyed by the witchcraft sect and the 7 ancient clans. At the critical moment, if it wasn't for the drought demon before him leading him out of the encirclement, he would have been captured even if he didn't die. All of this was because of Yi Chen. Initially, he wanted to rush to the Tao sect and kill Yi Chen with sect master Lei Xing and the other supreme sect masters. However, when he heard that Yi Chen had killed 5 of the 6 supreme sect masters and that only sect master Lei Xing's soul had escaped, he was horrified and fled 1,000 kilometers away. He also knew that he only had 2 choices after Yi Chen became a god through this battle. He could either submit to Yi Chen or die. How could he be willing to submit to Yi Chen? Therefore, he took the risk to come to the Buddhist sect while Yi Chen was recovering from his injuries after the battle. He had to enter the Thunderclap Tower. Only then would he have the ability to fight Yi Chen. Master, why are you still wasting your breath on him? The drought demon suddenly spoke in human language, his eyes bloodshot. I believe the news of us descending into the Buddhist sect has already spread. You should make a decision as soon as possible. The moment that was said, the corpse sect master's expression changed slightly. He seemed to be hesitating, but it was then covered by a sinister aura. Since you're so insensible, don't blame me. At the next moment, a black bell suddenly appeared in his hand. Open the heavenly court and allow one to live forever. 3 souls and 7 spirits, return to the soul, 3 souls on the left and 7 spirits on the right. Listen to the divine order quietly, but no one can see it clearly. No one can see it and no one can know it. It's as urgent as the law. As the corpse sect master shook the bell, streams of black energy suddenly shot out from the bell and landed on the corpses on the ground. Boom! Under everyone's shocked gazes, the corpses on the ground suddenly stood up as if they had come back to life. Corpse resurrection. The white-haired old monk's expression changed drastically. This is the corpse resurrection technique. Sect Master Luo, you will be punished by heaven for using this technique. You forced me to do this. At that moment, the corpse sect master's 7 orifices were bleeding, as if he had turned into a blood man. However, his face was filled with madness. Let's go. The corpse sect master's figure flashed, and the bell in his hand rang rhythmically. The hundreds of corpses immediately followed. Buddhist disciple, protect the Thunderclap Tower with your body. The white-haired old monk immediately revealed a tragic expression. Then, Buddhist light burst out from his body as he charged at the corpse sect master. The Thunderclap Tower was the place where the Buddhist almighties had passed away. To the Buddhist sect, it was no different from a holy land. How could they let others enter so easily? Roar. At that moment, the drought demon charged over. The corpse sect master did not care about all of this. He frantically controlled the corpses and charged towards a Buddhist pagoda. The Buddhist pagoda was 60 meters tall and was completely reddish gold in color. From afar, it looked dazzling with lightning surging at the top of the pagoda. Just as the corpse sect master was about to reach the pagoda suddenly trembled. Rays of Buddhist light suppressed him, and a huge golden net appeared out of nowhere. Psst, psst. The corpse sect master groaned, and his body emitted wisps of green smoke. It was as if he was a red-hot soldering iron. "Break!" he roared angrily, then opened his mouth and spat a mouthful of blood essence onto the bell in his hand. The bell immediately shot towards the Buddhist pagoda, along with hundreds of corpses. "Explode!" The corpse sect master pointed at the bell. Suddenly, black gas surged from the bell, and it cracked with a loud sound. The hundreds of corpses also turned into bloody mist. The bloody mist strangely scattered towards the huge golden net above the Buddhist pagoda. The huge golden net shook violently a few times, then disappeared without a trace, as if it had been contaminated by blood. "Ah!" The corpse sect master stepped into the pagoda and laughed maniacally. "I've sacrificed 20 years of my lifespan. I don't believe I can't break your Buddhist light formation." The Thunderclap Pagoda stored the corpses of many powerful Buddhists. If he were to barge in, he would be suppressed by the Buddhist light formation. Therefore, he wanted to force the Buddhists to open the Buddhist light formation. However, Mingguang would rather die than comply. He was worried that something bad would happen if he delayed it, so he could only use the resurrection technique to forcefully break the Buddhist light formation. Fortunately, the controller of the formation, Zen Master Banruo, had died. Otherwise, even if he sacrificed all his lifespan, he wouldn't be able to break it. At the same time, the drought demon came, bathed in blood. The corpse sect master looked at him with doubt in his eyes. "Sure, Shao, are you sure the thing you mentioned is in this pagoda?" "Of course." The drought demon smiled strangely. "That thing is on the 19th floor of the Thunderclap Pagoda. Master, if you get it, you won't even be afraid of a sage." Chapter 935. I hope you're not lying to me." The corpse sect master snorted coldly and rushed to the 19th floor from the first floor of the pagoda. There was a hint of greed in his eyes. He had heard from the drought demon that there was a corpse king suppressed in the Thunderclap Pagoda. Such an existence was omnipotent before the great calamity of the Kunlun ruins. Later on, it was suppressed by the saints of the Kunlun ruins and sealed in the Buddhist sect's Thunderclap Pagoda. For thousands of years, it had been purified by Buddhism day and night. Corpse King. Such an existence had already surpassed the drought demon. Its battle prowess was comparable to a saint, and it could even tear a saint apart with its bare hands. Once he obtained it, what would a mere mad southern Yi amount to? Even the old man from Purple Cap Mountain had to be wary of him. Right at that moment, the corpse sect master suddenly felt a bone-piercing chill behind him. At the next moment, a withered hand had pierced through his back. The corpse sect master lowered his head in a daze and looked at the bloody hand. Then, he turned around with great difficulty to look at the drought demon behind him. His eyes were filled with disbelief. He did not expect the corpse puppet he had nurtured to suddenly ambush him. The corpse puppet took out his heart and licked the blood on it with the tip of its tongue. It chuckled. "How can a piece of trash like you be my master?" The corpse sect master roared. "Don't forget that I was the one who saved you from the Buddhist sect. I was also the one who spent 200 years to make you the drought demon." "So what?" The drought demon scoffed. "Haven't I risked my life for you for the past 200 years? Didn't I save you when the witchcraft sect joined forces with the 7 ancient clans to almost kill you?" Why? The corpse sect master fell to the ground, his face filled with regret and resentment. "Because I've waited for this day. I've waited for 200 years. The drought demon chuckled. "If I didn't gain your trust, if I didn't tell you that there's a corpse king in the Thunderclap Pagoda, how could I get close to my lord?" "My lord?" The corpse sect master was at a loss. Then, he seemed to have thought of something and gritted his teeth. "So the reason you told me that there's a corpse king in the Thunderclap Pagoda was to use me to break the Buddha light formation." "Not only that," Hanba shrieked, "the one being suppressed in the Thunderclap Pagoda is indeed a corpse king, and it is my lord. The sect master of the corpse sect felt as if he had been struck by lightning. 2,200 years ago, that group of shameless people used a scheme to suppress our Lord here for more than 2,000 years. At this point, the corpse chi on Hamba's body surged. His eyes were filled with hatred. And now, it's time for the Lord to come into being. As a greeting gift to the Master, it lowered its head and sized up the cult leader of Chasing Corpse cult. Its eyes were filled with excitement. Your flesh, your soul, I'll take them on behalf of my master. No! The sect master of Corpse sect roared furiously. In just half an hour, Yi Chun arrived at the outskirts of the Kungsu Desert under the leadership of the witchcraft sect's sect master. Yi Chun stood on an extremely desolate mountain peak. Peak Master, the center of the desert is where the Buddhist sect is located, Wu Tianho introduced respectfully. He looked into the distance and saw that in the center of the wasteland there were endless temples and Buddha statues. The temples and Buddha statues were made of huge stones. They were similar to pyramids, but they looked extremely magnificent. However, in the sky above the originally solemn and dignified Buddhist sect, there was an extreme black energy soaring into the sky. The black energy was like a demonic black dragon that swept through the air wantonly, emitting a thick stench of corpse and blood. It's corpse energy. Wu Tianho's expression changed slightly, and he seemed to be fearful. Looks like the Buddhist sect has suffered a calamity. I wonder if old Luo succeeded. The old Luo he mentioned was the sect master of Chasing Corpse sect. We'll know once we go over and take a look. Yi Chen chuckled softly and waved his sleeve. He controlled a gust of wind and shot toward the Buddhist sect. He was not there to help the Buddhist sect. Instead, he was suddenly interested in the sect master of Chasing Corpse sect. Level 19 of the Buddhist sect's Thunderclap Pagoda. This level was a forbidden area of the Buddhist sect for generations. It was said to be the 19th level, but it did not exist. Without a saint's cultivation base, one could not see through it. Therefore, all these years, no one knew about the existence of the 19th level. Even Zen Master Banrual was no exception. Within the 19th level, there were also 8 dried corpses of saints guarding the 8 trigrams. The chains in their hands extended out, and there was a purple jade coffin hanging in the center. In the purple jade coffin, there was a pale-faced man in a black dragon robe. This person was handsome. His eyebrows were like dots, his eyes were like stars, and his face was as white as jade. He faintly exuded an aura that looked down on the world. The corpse seemed to have died a long time ago. If one took a closer look, they would discover that there was a hole about the thickness of a finger on his forehead. It was unknown what it was, but from the wound, one could see the coffin under him. There were countless formations around the coffin, and there were even talismans stuck on them. However, as time passed, the formations had long become dim. Hidorigami knelt on one knee in front of the purple jade coffin and kowtowed a few times respectfully. Then, a red stream that flickered with blood appeared in his hand. The blood-colored stream slowly flowed into the man's mouth. The man's slightly shriveled body immediately became full at a speed visible to the naked eye, like grass in the desert meeting sweet spring water. Hidorigami once again fed the soul of the corpse sect master, and then stared at the man nervously. After an unknown period of time, a weak breathing sound came from the coffin. It was intermittent like the breathing of a baby. As the breathing sound rang out, the weather outside the tower suddenly changed. Dark clouds covered the sun, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. At the same time, 2 figures quickly rushed into the Buddhist sect. Wu Tianho looked at the corpses on the ground in shock. Peak Master, so many people died. Corpse energy. Yi Chen frowned slightly and said, I sense dense corpse energy. It seems like these people were really killed by the corpse sect master. Just as Wu Tianho was about to look around, he suddenly realized that the sky above his head had darkened. He subconsciously raised his head, and his expression changed. The weather had changed. Earlier, the sun was shining brightly, but now dark clouds covered the sun. Thunderclouds shrouded the sky as if the heavens were angry. Yi Chen squinted and suddenly looked at the sky above the thunderclap tower. It was the center of the thunderclouds. His expression was somewhat solemn. He could sense that a dangerous aura was gradually awakening. Even the saint of Purple Cap Mountain had never given him such a feeling. This is divine retribution. Yi Chen took a deep breath in and fixed his eyes on the place where the thunderclouds were. He said slowly, "To be able to trigger divine retribution, a monster must be born." Chapter 936. Heavenly tribulation was different from heavenly punishment. The former was merely a test of the heavenly Tao for cultivators. Ordinary people said that the heavenly Tao was heartless, but the heavenly Tao had imperceptibly given all living beings a chance of survival. The latter, on the other hand, was much more serious. It was mostly a thunderous method used by the heavenly Tao to eliminate and kill some abnormal beings. It was also the so-called wrath of the heavens. For example, people who committed heinous crimes would be struck by lightning. Of course, a mere mortal would not be punished by the heavens. Wu Tianhou could not help but feel nervous when he sensed that Yi Chen's tone was slightly serious. He was afraid that all of this was caused by the corpse sex sect master. What happened? There's a phenomenon in the sky. A monster must be descending. Why has the sky changed so frequently in the Kunlun ruins recently? Almost at that moment, the entire Kunlun ruins was alarmed by this phenomenon. Countless people looked in the direction of the Buddhist sect in shock. The 19th floor of the Thunderclap Pagoda. Huff, huff, the weak breathing grew louder and louder. In the end, it was like a violent storm, causing the entire Thunderclap Pagoda to tremble. At the next moment, the man in the black dragon robe in the purple jade coffin suddenly opened his strange eyes. His eyes were like a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood, like a king who had descended upon the world. The thunderclouds outside the pagoda became denser and denser, as if they were accumulating strength and waiting for the best opportunity. Roar then, the man in the purple jade coffin suddenly opened his mouth, and a furious roar that almost shook the heavens came from his mouth. His two fangs were ferocious. The entire Thunderclap Pagoda started to shake violently, and some of the Buddhist disciples outside the pagoda started to bleed from their ears. Some even died on the spot. Boom! The man stood up from the coffin with a loud bang. Two huge pitch-black wings suddenly emerged from behind the black dragon robe. They were like huge bat wings, and they were covered in dragon scales. Seeing this, Hidorigami, who was silently guarding at the side, immediately knelt on one knee and said excitedly, "Qin Jian greets my lord." Qin Jian. The man in the black dragon robe sized up Hidorigami with a complicated expression. His crimson eyes finally returned to normal. "You've done your best to recover me. Even if I have to sacrifice my life and go through fire and water, this general will not hesitate." Qin Jian kowtowed heavily, his eyes brimming with hot tears. The man moved his stiff neck. His memory was a little messed up. What era is it now? Where is Great Qin? Where are the old farts of the 9 clans? Lord, Great Qin has perished. Qin Jian placed his head on the ground and said, "It has been 2,000 years since then. After the 9 elders suppressed you, they predicted that the great calamity of the world was about to arrive and had long stepped onto the heavenly road. Humph! Su Junfang, you lied to me, you lied to me. My great Qin is dead, what a great lie." The man was so angry that he laughed, his killing intent soaring to the heavens, and the old fogies of the 9 clans. "Back then, you and the other 9 great saints joined hands to plot against me, piercing through my blood sea and suppressing me for as long as 2,000 years. Who would have thought that you would step into the heavenly road in advance? Lord, you've just woken up. Please take care of your body." Qin Jian kowtowed again. "Although the great Qin is dead, we still have 3,000 iron-armored loyal bones. As long as you are reborn from the flames, you can lead your troops into the heavenly road, destroy the 9 clans, and revive the great Qin. Boom! At that moment, the 8 saint corpses on the 8 trigrams formation moved, as if they had been stimulated by the corpse aura on the man's body and awakened. The 8 corpses leaped out at the same time. With ruthless gazes, they activated the power of heaven and earth. Endless lightning appeared from the void and charged straight at the man in the black dragon robe. As expected of the descendants of those old farts from the 9 clans, the man in the black dragon robe seemed to be disdainful. Even your ancestors can't kill me together, let alone the 8 of you who died long ago? Roar. As the 2 fangs were revealed, an earth-shattering roar came from his mouth. Rumble, with a roar. The world seemed to tremble. The 8 corpses were unable to resist at all and collapsed, turning into ashes. Rumble. At that moment, bolts of lightning descended from the sky like a surging sea of lightning. The man in the black dragon robe's gaze turned cold. With a flash, he stepped out. A pair of bone wings that covered the sky soared through the sky, and he took the initiative to attack the incoming sea of lightning. Almost at that moment, when Wu Tianho saw this, he could not help but cry out in shock, "Peak Master, who is that?" With the appearance of the man in the black dragon robe, a supreme giant like him actually felt a trace of fear from the depths of his soul. "It's not a human." Yi Chen stared at the figure in the sky that took the initiative to face the lightning. His pupils constricted as he said, "It's the Corpse King. I didn't expect such a heaven-defying thing to exist on Earth. No wonder it attracted the wrath of heaven. Fiendish demon, it's a fiendish demon." The supreme giant of the Buddhist sect, Ming Guang, who was severely injured by Qin Jian, trembled continuously. His eyes were filled with disbelief. "There's actually a fiendish demon suppressed in our Buddhist sect." Rumble, several bolts of lightning that were like pillars of light that supported the sky attacked the man. Each bolt of lightning contained an aura that seemed to be able to destroy the world. The heavenly Tao has long since ceased to exist. What right do you, a fake heavenly Tao, have to destroy me? The man in the black dragon robe's pair of bone wings rose into the sky. His hands crossed the air and suddenly grabbed an incoming bolt of lightning. The corners of his mouth revealed his fangs. Sizzle, sizzle. He actually forcefully swallowed the bolt of lightning into his stomach. Lightning surged all over his body, but it was unable to cause any harm to his body. Destroy! After the man in the black dragon robe swallowed several bolts of lightning, he let out a long roar that shook the 9 heavens. The thunderclouds in the sky were actually dispersed by his roar. At the next moment, the moment the man in the black dragon robe landed on the ground, the blood of the Buddhist sect powerhouses were sucked dry by him. Even monk Ming Guang was no exception. At the same time, his flesh and blood had completely recovered. Other than the pair of bone wings that covered the sky, he was no different from an ordinary person. Boom! A large hand suddenly reached out from the void. It was incomparably domineering as it pressed down on the man in the black dragon robe, as if it was imprisoning the space he was in. "Saint?" A hint of surprise flashed through the man's eyes before he smirked coldly. "So it's just a quasi-saint. Get lost." Dense corpse energy swept out from his body before condensing into a large hand in front of him. It whizzed out and collided heavily with the large hand. Rumble, following an explosion in the air, the large hand that appeared first was forcefully destroyed and dissipated. On Purple Cap Mountain, a trace of blood flowed from the corner of the boy's mouth. His face aged another 10 years, and his eyes were filled with sorrow. This world is about to fall into chaos. Qin Jian, who had flown out of the Thunderclap Pagoda, noticed Yi Chen and the girl when he landed. His eyes suddenly turned extremely red. "Master, there are 2 more people here." Chapter 937. "My lord, there are 2 more people here." Following Drought Demon Qin Jian's words, The black-robed man in the distance then looked at Yi Chen and Wu Tianhou coldly. At that moment Wu Tianhou, who was next to Yi Chen, felt a bone-piercing chill on his back. It was as if he was being targeted by some primordial ferocious beast. His heart was in his throat. If Yi Chen was not by his side, he would have fallen to the ground. He did not know who the black-robed man before him was, but he had witnessed it with his own eyes. It was one thing for this person to resist the heavenly punishment, but he had even broken the attack of the old saint of Purple Cap Mountain. Such a person was definitely a saint. However, Yi Chen's expression did not change at all. He merely looked at the black-robed man quietly. Apart from the one from Purple Cap Mountain, he was the most powerful person Yi Chen had ever seen in the Kunlun ruins. But so what? He, Mad Southern Yi, had never been afraid of a battle. At that moment the atmosphere was a little strange. Yi Chen looked straight at the black-robed man. The other party also looked straight at him. No one spoke. It was as if there was no one else in this world that could catch their attention. Wu Tianhou trembled in fear and did not dare to make a sound. "Let's go." In the end, the black-robed man was the first to withdraw his gaze. Then, a pair of bone wings flapped and rose into the sky, transforming into a giant beast that could hold up the sky and disappearing into the horizon in the blink of an eye. "My lord, why didn't you absorb those two people just now?" Drought Demon Qin Jian followed behind and could not help but ask. One of them is called Mad Southern Yi. He's the most famous person in the Kunlun ruins today. If you absorb his blood essence, perhaps you'll be able to recover to your peak. Mad Southern Yi? The black-robed man's eyes shone brightly as he muttered, "This person is extremely extraordinary. I can sense dragon energy from him. He'll definitely be the enemy of the 9 schools in the future." Dragon energy? Qin Jian's heart skipped a beat when he heard that. He knew very well what his lord meant. It meant that Yi Chen was born with the same fate as his lord. Such an existence was not tolerated by the 9 schools. Only after the two of them left did Wu Tianhou heave a sigh of relief. Only then did Wu Tianhou heave a sigh of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He then asked, still in a state of shock, "Peak Lord, I don't understand. Why is this King Zombie being suppressed in the Buddhist sect? Judging from his attire, he should be from the Qin dynasty." Yi Chen's eyes could not stop flickering as he thought to himself, the Qin dynasty was more than 2,000 years ago, and this person has dragon energy. Could this person be? A thought suddenly flashed through his mind, but it was immediately extinguished by him. According to historical records, in 210 BC, that person died of illness at the Sand Dune Palace during his 5th Eastern Patrol. He was then buried in the mausoleum of Mount Li. How could it possibly appear in the Kunlun ruins? Yi Chen shook his head in amusement. "It seems like I'll have to go to the mausoleum of Li Mountain to investigate when I get the chance when I return to the secular world." Then, he looked in the direction that the black-robed man had left in and frowned. "Qin dynasty, just how many secrets do you have?" Putting aside the fact that he had discovered the ancient teleportation formation left behind by the pre-Qin Qi refinement cultivators in the ancient barren world. Just the corpse king of the Qin dynasty, who was wearing a dragon robe, was enough to give the Qin dynasty a sense of mystery. Yi Chen lifted his eyes and looked at the messy Buddhist sect before him. He said, "Let's go back too." At the same time, the Kunlun ruins shook again. The Buddhist sect had been destroyed. One had to know that in the past few hundred years of the Kunlun ruins, apart from the Blood God sect, no supreme sect had ever been destroyed. Even Yi Chen had only destroyed the 5 ancient clans. Although he had killed his way into the Sword sect and killed countless people from the 6 high sects, he did not destroy any of the supreme sects at the end of the day. However, the Buddhist sect had been destroyed. This news spread throughout the entire Kunlun ruins at an earth-shattering speed. It could be said to be like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples, and everyone was shocked. An expert cried out in horror, Who was the one who destroyed the Buddhism sect? Could it be Mad Southern Yi? Yes, it must be Mad Southern Yi. In our Kunlun ruins, apart from that person from Purple Cap Mountain, only Mad Southern Yi has such strength. Who else could it be other than him? This person must have destroyed the Buddhist sect to take revenge on Zen Master Banruo for attacking him. Everyone, do you know who Mad Southern Yi is now? The Buddhist sect has been destroyed. Who's next? Tao sect? Devil sect? Just when the outside world was pointing their fingers at Yi Chen and was about to stop the Alliance army from denouncing him, a piece of shocking news came from Purple Cap Mountain. A piece of important news came from the Purple Cap Mountain. The person who passed the message even received the permission of the old saint. The Devil sect wasn't destroyed by Mad Southern Yi, but a corpse king was suppressed in the Buddhist sect's Thunder Pagoda. The corpse king escaped and started a massacre. Even the old saint was unable to capture it. The moment these words were spoken, the entire world fell silent. Corpse king. Countless people were shocked by these two words. They had never expected that there would be a corpse king suppressed in the Buddhist sect. What shocked them the most was that even the old saint could not capture it. Didn't that mean that this corpse king's battle prowess was comparable to a saint? Becoming a saint with a corpse? If that was really the case, who in the entire Kunlun ruins could be his match? Right at this moment, pieces of extremely shocking news swarmed in from all directions of the Kunlun ruins. The corpse king descended to the far west and awakened the 3 drought demons and 3,000 bronze-armored corpses from the dead wasteland. The corpse king led 4 drought demons and 3,000 bronze-armored corpses to destroy 30 sects and countless martial Dao families. The corpse king personally went to Purple Cap Mountain and forced the old saint to make a move. The two of them fought, and the old saint was heavily injured and retreated. When everyone finally digested this string of news with great difficulty, all of them turned pale with astonishment and practically despaired. Meanwhile, Yi Chen was in the Devil sect at that moment. He stood with his hands behind his back and stared at the suppressed dragon vein before him. The shock in his eyes could not be erased. The scene before him was exactly the same as what he had seen in the Dao sect's secret palace. There was also a saint's corpse suppressing the dragon vein. Not only that, the other sects, such as the Corpse sect, the Witchcraft sect, the Star sect, and the other supreme sects, were all suppressing dragon veins. These dragon veins covered Mount Mao, Mount Longhu, Mount Tai, Mount Huang, Mount Wutai, Mount Qinqing, Mount Zhongnan. All the famous mountain dragon veins in the secular world were extracted and gathered into 9 dragon veins to suppress the 9 supreme sects of the Kunlun ruins. A total of 9 dragon veins are related to the rise and fall of the secular world in China. However, you guys extracted them one by one and suppressed them here. Yi Chen was furious. Is this the plan you guys are going to carry out on the secular world? Do you guys deserve to be called saints? He finally understood why the spiritual energy in the secular world was scarce and the inheritance of the cultivation heart was almost cut off, but the spiritual energy in the Kunlun ruins was extremely abundant. Thinking to this point, he could not help but smile coldly. I'd like to ask this old saint who's the only surviving saint of Purple Cap Mountain. Chapter 938. Yi Chen had already learned about the commotion caused by the Corpse King in the outside world through Elder Qing Xian and the rest. Elder Qing Xian said worriedly, "Peak Master, this beast is extremely ferocious. If he kills his way into our 9th peak, the Witchcraft sect's sect master, Corpse sect's new sect master, Wei Yun, and the rest nodded one after another. Too many things had happened in the Kunlun ruins in the past few days. After the Qin corpse broke out of closed-door cultivation, it brought a lot of fear to the Kunlun ruins. He won't. However, Yi Chen only replied with 3 words before sending Elder Qing Xian and the rest away. He then went to the scripture pavilions of the supreme sections. In just 2 days, he had read almost all the books in the Kunlun ruins, but he realized that the records in these books were only from 400 years ago. However, there was no information about the past 400 years. It was as if someone had forcefully erased it. What kind of calamity happened in the Kunlun ruins 500 years ago? Why are all the saints gone? Yi Chen was very persistent about it. In the past 2 days, the Corpse King caused countless shocks in the Kunlun ruins again. However, it strangely did not attack Yi Chen's forces, nor did it have any intention of coming into contact with Yi Chen. It was as if there was some sort of tacit understanding between the two, or they had reached an agreement not to invade each other. This made Elder Qing Xian and the rest suspicious. They almost thought that Yi Chen had released the Corpse King. Kunlun Ruins Calendar, 2018, 27th day. Yi Chen led the people of the 9th Peak to Purple Cap Mountain. He was going to complete the battle with the old saint 3 days ago. Countless people were furious when the news spread. They cursed Yi Chen for being shameless. Mad Southern Yi really keeps his promise. The old saint is already injured, but he's still shamelessly going to keep the appointment. That goddamn Mad Southern Yi, why didn't that Corpse King go and suck his blood? Mad Southern Yi only knows how to bully the weak and fear the strong. If you have the ability, go and fight that Corpse King one-on-one. It's best if both of you die together. At that moment, countless people cried and cursed. Even so, the Kunlun ruins moved for Yi Chen alone. Countless people headed to Purple Cap Mountain to watch the battle from a close distance. Less than 100 kilometers away from Purple Cap Mountain, a black iron armor that was as long as a black dragon was surrounding a huge carriage. They were silent and breathless, like spirits that had returned from hell. Their eyes were cold, empty, and terrifying. As for the chariot, it had 4 ribs that shone with dazzling brilliance. The strangest thing was that there were 9 enormous creatures pulling the chariot in front. He took a closer look. Shockingly, it was the skeleton of a 9-headed warhorse. There was not a single trace of flesh or blood on its body. Its entire body emitted boundless energy, and its hollow eyes flickered with ghostly flames. On the carriage, there was a man wearing a black dragon robe. The man wore a flat crown on his head and had a dignified appearance. Boundless corpse aura erupted from his body, causing the surrounding space to tremble. Around the carriage were 4 Humvee guards with monstrous corpse chi. The 4 drought demons were all dressed in battle armor, and one of them was Qin Jian. At this moment, one of the drought demons looked around and said slowly, "My lord, why are we here to watch the battle?" Wait. Inside the carriage, the man in the black dragon robe closed his eyes to rest. His expression was like ice that would not melt for 1,000 years. The drought demon could only suppress his suspicions and stop asking. Purple Cap Mountain. It was deep in the Broken Soul mountain range, the largest mountain range in the Kunlun ruins. Its whereabouts had always been mysterious, and it was not found by the world. Today, the formation leading to the Broken Soul mountain range had been completely activated. The mountain path leading to Purple Cap Mountain was extremely flat. On Purple Cap Peak, which was the entrance to Purple Cap Mountain, countless people had already gathered. They were all people who had rushed over from all over the Kunlun ruins to watch the battle. Regardless of whether it was the supreme sects or the aristocratic families, they were all gathered. Woo-woo, along with the sound of something tearing through the air, there was also a shocking sword cry. Then, streaks of sword gleam tore through the thick clouds. He's here, Mad Southern Yi is here. Everyone's spirits were lifted. The countless sword gleams in the sky came side by side. Powerful auras spread out and tore through the void. When they were less than 60 meters away from Purple Cap Peak, all the sword gleams stopped and retreated to the side. Under the numerous gazes, a thin figure slowly walked over as if he was taking a leisurely stroll. Mad Southern Yi. At that moment, countless people's hearts trembled. Especially supreme sects like the Tao sect. He's Mad Southern Yi. However, there were still some young people who were traveling for the first time who curled their lips. He doesn't look that good? Is he really as brave as the rumors say? As soon as those words were spoken, the expressions of the seniors behind them changed. Then, they covered each other's mouths tightly. "Brat, do you want to die? Mad Southern Yi is an existence comparable to a saint. He even dared to kill sect master Lei Xing and the rest. He can destroy our heartless sect hundreds of times with a sneeze." After reprimanding Yi Chen, he looked at Yi Chen nervously again. He heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Yi Chen did not react. Under everyone's gaze, Yi Chen looked deep into Purple Cap Mountain. He then spoke slowly and shouted like thunder, "Mad Southern Yi of the secular world is here to fulfill the 3-day promise today. Old Saint, please come out and fight me." When he said the first word, it was extremely normal. However, the second word raised the decibel. When he said the fifth word, everyone present felt a piercing pain in their ears. After the last word was spoken, it was as if the sky and earth were collapsing. A thunderous explosion sounded in everyone's ears. The entire Purple Cap Peak seemed to have been struck by countless bolts of lightning. At that moment, everyone's expression changed. Even the young people who looked down on Yi Chen earlier were no exception. They were bleeding from their 7 orifices, and their faces were filled with fear. Was this Mad Southern Yi? It was too terrifying. After a few seconds of silence on top of Purple Cap Mountain, a beautiful figure shot over. It was Zijur. However, at that moment, Zijur's face was filled with bitterness. She bit her red lips and said, "Mr. Yi, my ancestor is injured. Can we fight another day?" "I'm sorry." Yi Chen's expression was cold. He was unmoved. Anger was accumulating in his heart. Many of the dragon veins in the secular world of China had been extracted and suppressed by the saints of Shang Santian. These people were like thieves who stole from others, yet they treated them like ants. He wanted to ask today, what right did the Kunlun ruins have? He wanted to seek justice from Old Qin, Niu Qingshan, and the others who had sacrificed their lives to protect the Chinese cultivation world. "Mr. Yi, I'm begging you." Zijur's face turned pale, and she was about to kneel down. "My ancestor has dedicated his entire life to the Kunlun ruins. He has no enmity towards you." At that moment, a weak force spread out from the void and stopped Zijur from kneeling. "Fellow, since you want to fight, then let's fight." Chapter 939. A faint sigh came from the void. This sigh seemed to be mixed with helplessness, as if it had experienced the vicissitudes of life. Suddenly, layers of essence chi clouds appeared on the ground, bringing with them a boundless might and pressure that covered the sky and covered the earth. The clouds seemed to stir the world, and then a dazzling light soared into the sky from the depths of Purple Cap Mountain, illuminating the world. Then, under everyone's gazes, a figure sat cross-legged in the clouds. He sat there like a god, refining and opening up on his own. Strange phenomena appeared frequently. It was this seemingly ordinary figure that made everyone present feel a terrifying power. He was the patriarch of Purple Cap Mountain, Zi Qingtsang. He was also the only saint left in the Kunlun ruins after the Great Calamity 500 years ago. If Yi Chen had not killed the 5 supreme sect masters consecutively, he would probably not have known about this existence. Is this the might of a saint? Countless people held their breath. On the other hand, Yi Chen's expression did not change. He stepped into the clouds with a flash and looked at the figure 300 meters away. The figure was dressed in white. He looked like a 14 or 15-year-old boy, but he had a head full of white hair and wrinkles. His eyes were deep as if he could see through the world. "Fellow Taoist, you really came." Zi Qingsang's eyes revealed a deep sense of helplessness as he said, "I know why you're here." "You know why I'm here?" Yi Chen was slightly stunned. Then, he came to a realization. "Since you know why I'm here, why do you still dare to show yourself and fight me? Do you think that even if you're injured, I won't be able to kill you? I'll give you an explanation after this battle." Zi Qingsang sighed softly. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and there were even more wrinkles on his face. "Since that's the case, let's fight." Yi Chen stepped on the ground and threw a punch. His terrifying fist force scattered all the clouds in all directions. As his figure flashed, it was like a plane flying past, bringing with it a white waterfall that was 300 meters long. The powerhouses on the ground were shocked. Physical strength. Mad Southern Yi is actually fighting the old saint with his physical strength? Look, Mad Southern Ye's body is crystal clear. Could it be that his body has already become a saint? Someone exclaimed. When everyone took a closer look, they saw that Yi Chen's body was crimson gold in color. His entire body was surging with divine radiance. They could not help but be shocked. Interesting. 100 miles away, the black-robed man on the chariot suddenly opened his eyes. This physical body is comparable to a divine body. What? Saint body? The expressions of the 4 drought demons beside him changed. Master, wasn't the saint body destroyed by the 9 clans? This person might be the only one with a saint physique left in the past. The black-robed man's eyes flickered as if he could see through the void. But why don't I sense a familiar aura from this person? Could it be that it has its own consciousness that was born from the body of a dead divine body? Zi Qingsong did not panic when he saw Yi Chen's punch coming at him. He extended his arm and grabbed the air. In the next moment, endless origin energy turned into a dazzling sword shadow in his hand and met Yi Chen's punch directly. Boom, the two of them collided. Yi Chen's golden fist shook the air. It was extremely fast and violent as it landed on the dazzling sword shadow. The sound echoed dozens of kilometers away. What a powerful body! Seeing this scene, many people gasped in unison. He had relied on his body to withstand the saint's sword. They had never seen this before, nor did they dare to think about it. Even Zi Qingsong frowned. He did not expect Yi Chen's body to be so powerful. Just like his sword earlier, any supreme giant would die instantly if they were lightly brushed by it. Buzz! Zi Qingsong's figure flashed and he retreated dozens of meters. Then, he waved his sleeve and a black palm slashed down from the sky. It was a black mass, as if the sky was about to be destroyed. Rumble, Yi Chen attacked again. He turned into a dazzling beam of light and shot out. The golden punch shattered the air and produced a violent tremor. Rumble, everyone felt a piercing pain in their ears, as if a thunderclap had exploded. Then, after a golden energy and black energy converged in the air, the energy waves that erupted swept out like a tide. Bang, bang, bang. Just the shockwave that was emitted caused the Purple Cap Mountain to be cut into 2. The huge mountain broke apart and forcefully smashed a heavenly pit into the ground. Too terrifying, too terrifying. Someone mumbled to himself. No one knew if he was talking about how terrifying the saint, Zi Qingsong, was or how Yi Chen could fight Zi Qingsong to such an extent. Cough, cough, cough. Zi Qingsong coughed softly and his face turned pale. He had been severely injured by the Corpse King before this, and he had exhausted too much energy to fight Yi Chen now. The old saint vomited blood? Oh my God, how is that possible? However, the people on the ground did not think that way. Some of them thought that Yi Chen had injured him. Zi Qingsong grabbed the broken half of Purple Cap Peak that had fallen into the ground in the face of such gossip. The giant mountain that was over 60 meters tall was forcefully sucked into the air. It was like a huge mountain that soared through the sky, majestic and majestic, covering the sky and covering the sun. Zi Qingsong shouted softly, "Suppress!" Boom! The mountain descended from the sky and turned the world upside down. It pressed down on Yi Chen directly as if it had locked onto him. Everyone's expression changed. On the other hand, Yi Chen's eyes shone brightly after he let out a long roar. He charged forward. No matter how many abilities you have, I'll break them with one punch. The golden fist was like a small sun that was spitting fire, making it hard for people to open their eyes. Rumble, the second clash between the two shattered the space on the spot. The energy waves that erupted were incomparably ferocious, like a tsunami. Crack, in the end, the peak could not withstand his punch. A corner of it cracked open, and then it let out a deafening sound. It shattered and turned into rocks that scattered everywhere. At the next moment, Yi Chen closed in and attacked in an extremely overbearing manner. The air rumbled as he attacked. The space collapsed with every step he took. Zi Qingsong's expression changed slightly. He formed a hand seal and an illusory golden shield appeared in front of his chest. Bang! Yi Chen's divine power was monstrous. The vital energy and blood in his body surged as he split the sky with his bare hands. He threw a punch at the golden shield. A crack appeared on the golden shield before it shattered. The remaining force of the punch landed accurately on Zi Qingsong's body. Under everyone's gaze, Zi Qingsong retreated continuously. In the end, he could not help but spit a mouthful of blood. His face became even older, and a hint of vicissitudes flashed in the depths of his deep eyes. I've lost, I've lost. The moment that was said, the world fell into dead silence. Chapter 940. The entire Purple Cap Peak also became silent at this moment. Looking at the old figure in the sky, no one made a sound. Their gazes were all focused on the old figure. Defeated. The old saint was defeated. Initially, they thought that the battle between the two of them would either be evenly matched or Yi Chen would be easily suppressed by the old saint. However, it had only been a quarter of an hour since the two of them fought until the old sage was defeated. How is this possible? I don't believe it. That's right. The old saint was severely injured by that corpse king earlier. Otherwise, how could he have lost? Many people could not accept it at all. Before this, the old saint was a legend in the hearts of everyone in the Kunlun ruins, but now, the legend had been destroyed. However, most people were silent. Powerful. Too powerful. At that moment, everyone's gazes could not help but gather on the thin figure in the sky, and their hearts trembled. Only the experts present felt bitter in their hearts. Even though they were not saints, they could still tell a lot from the battle between Yi Chen and Zi Qingsong. From the beginning to the end, the old saint was restrained, while Yi Chen was extremely ferocious. Anyone would have a headache with his terrifying body. Ancestor. At this moment, a beautiful figure shot into the sky. Zizhe rushed to Zi Qingsong and held onto him tightly. She looked extremely nervous. I'm fine. Zi Qingsong smiled calmly. Subsequently, he looked at Yi Chen slowly with his deep eyes. Fellow, you've won. If you want to resolve your doubts, please follow me. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned into a long rainbow and shot into Purple Cap Mountain, leaving behind a lonely silhouette for everyone. Wait for me here. Yi Chen turned around and looked at Elder Qing Xian and the rest. Then, he led Yi Wushuang, who was carrying Meng Meng, into Purple Cap Mountain. He had originally thought that as the most mysterious supreme sect in the Kunlun ruins, Purple Cap Mountain would definitely be as luxurious as Dao sect and other supreme sections. However, to his surprise, Purple Cap Mountain did not look like a sect. Instead, it looked like a village. As far as the eye could see, the mountain was filled with straw huts and fields. There were people working in the fields. These people were all ordinary people, and they didn't seem to care about the battle between him and Zi Qingsong at all. Even when he saw them come in, he still bowed politely. He was not nervous at all, and then lowered his head to continue his work. Everything gave off the feeling of paradise, and it did not look like a supreme sect at all. Yi Chen secretly nodded. This is the natural way. In Purple Cap Mountain, the mountain peak that ordinary people could not see was extremely simple. There were only a few meditation cushions on the ground. Fellow Taoist, please have a seat. Zi Qingsong waved his sleeve, and a meditation cushion appeared out of thin air. After Yi Chen sat down, he said slowly, Before that, may I ask for your name in your previous life? Until now, he still treated Yi Chen as the reincarnation of an ancient saint. He was certain about it. Yi Chen said coldly, My name is the Mad Southern Immortal. The Immortal Sovereign? Ziqing-tsang was stunned at first, then he bowed and said, "The word immortal sovereign is enough to prove that you must have been extraordinary in your previous life. It's not an injustice for me to lose to you." Although he was a saint, he was still an earthling at the end of the day. He was a powerful ancient person. Although the ancient people sought immortality and Tao, they had never had a clear civilization of cultivation. Therefore, he thought that Yi Chen named himself Immortal Sovereign because he wanted to become an immortal and be ranked among the immortals. He wanted to become a supreme immortal. At the next moment, a golden soul slowly appeared in his hand. "I'll leave Lei Xing to you. I only hope that you can let him live, even if he has to step into reincarnation." It was Sect Master Lei Xing's soul. At that moment, Sect Master Lei Xing's face was filled with despair. He did not expect Yi Chen to really defeat his greatest reliance. Before Yi Chen could speak, he performed a seal with his hand. A golden lotus appeared out of thin air on the ground. "As compensation, I'll give you a big gift." The golden lotus moved to Yi Chen's side. It emitted extremely dense spiritual energy and life force. Soul-shaping golden lotus? Surprise flashed through Yi Chen's eyes. He then stared fixedly at the closed lotus pod in the middle of the golden lotus. There was excitement in his eyes. "Master, it's the aura of Emperor Brush's artifact spirit." The Night Demon Armor's excited voice was heard. Yi Chen took a good look at Ziqing-tsang. He extended his hand and grabbed the golden lotus. Through his divine consciousness, he realized that the artifact spirit of Emperor Brush was currently in the lotus pod. It was wrapped by the soul-shaping lotus seed and had sealed its 6 senses. Clearly, it was repairing its spirit body. Half a year ago, a spiritual light pierced through the barrier of the Kunlun ruins and entered the Kunlun ruins. After Lei Xing discovered it, he followed the trail and found a spiritual brush, Ziqing-tsang said slowly. He realized that this brush was extraordinary, so he wanted to offer it to me. I realized that the spirit body in the brush was damaged, so I extracted it and used the only soul-shaping golden lotus in Purple Cap Mountain to nurture it. Then, I returned the brush to Lei Xing. Yi Chen gradually came to a realization as he recounted the story. Only then did he roughly understand the details of Emperor Brush landing in the Kunlun ruins. "Fellow, if I'm not wrong, this brush should be a Tao artifact from your previous life, right?" Ziqing-tsang said calmly. He could vaguely guess it after knowing that Yi Chen had snatched Emperor Brush from Sect Master Lei Xing and killed everyone. "That's right." Yi Chen nodded lightly and looked at Sect Master Lei Xing's soul. "At the end of the day, you're a part of the reason why I'm able to reunite with my weapon. Since that's the case, I can spare your life." "Thank you, Immortal Yi." Sect Master Lei Xing bowed. He was extremely excited. Yi Chen's voice gradually turned cold. "Of course, if you're dissatisfied with me in the future, you can take revenge on me. However, by then, I wouldn't dare. Sect Master Lei Xing's body trembled as he hurriedly said, "I can swear that if I'm dissatisfied with Immortal Yi in the future, I'm willing to have my soul destroyed." After this incident, his fear of Yi Chen had reached its peak. How could he dare to have any ill thoughts? "You may leave." Ziqing-tsang waved his sleeve and chased his soul out without any hesitation. "I have to thank you too, fellow Z." Yi Chen clasped his fists at Ziqing-tsang. "If you hadn't nurtured my weapon spirit with the soul-shaping golden lotus, I'm afraid he wouldn't have been able to hold on until now." With that, 3 medicinal pills shot out from his hand and landed in Ziqing-tsang's hand. These are longevity pills. 1 pill can increase one's lifespan by 10 years. Ziqing-tsang was shocked. Clearly, he did not expect Yi Chen to be able to refine longevity pills. One had to know that even he could only refine ordinary medicinal pills. "I'll repay you with kindness and complain with resentment." Yi Chen changed the topic and looked at him fixedly. He was slightly cold. Why did your Kunlun ruins extract the 9 dragon veins from the secular world of China? Do you have to give me an explanation? P.S. Chapter 4 will continue tomorrow. Chapter 941. Kunlun Ruins within Purple Cap Mountain. Ziqing Tsang and Yi Chun sat opposite each other. A furnace of sandalwood incense was surrounded by smoke. The green smoke was like a dragon, refreshing one's mind. Yi Chun questioned Ziqing Tsang why the Kunlun ruins extracted all 9 dragon veins from the secular world and suppressed them mercilessly. As soon as he said that, he stared at Ziqing Tsang. His tone was unquestionable, and it was almost like an order. Hearing this, Ziqing Tsang faintly sighed, as if he had already guessed it. Then, he slowly said, "Before answering fellow's question, can fellow answer a question of mine?" Yi Chen nodded lightly. Ziqing Tsang's gaze was deep as he said fearfully, "Fellow Taoist, you should have seen that corpse king, right?" "Of course." Yi Chen nodded. The corpse king he spoke of was naturally the Qin corpse that had escaped from the Buddhist sect's Thunderclap Pagoda. Ziqing Tsang asked again, "Fellow Taoist, do you know this person's background?" Yi Chen went straight to the point, "Is he the first emperor?" As for the Qin corpse, he had already guessed it. Although he was not too sure, since Ziqing Tsang took the initiative to ask, he could only tell the truth. Ziqing Tsang smiled when he heard this. "Isn't he?" Yi Chen was surprised. "You can say yes, but you can also say no." Ziqing Tsang shook his head, his expression unfathomable. "To be precise, that corpse king is only the first emperor's evil body." "Evil body?" Yi Chen was stunned at first, then his pupils shrunk slightly. In Taoism, using the concept of cultivation, a person needs to break through the shackles of the body to become stronger. In other words, the body is a person's greatest treasure. Therefore, the Taoists divided the human body into 3 main categories: the jade body, the dharma body, and the sin body. Among them, the jade body was the body of a mortal. Although the jade body could not cultivate any techniques, it could rely on accumulating merits to become an immortal. Of course, this process often required tens of thousands of reincarnations. Dharmakaya, on the other hand, was when a mortal stepped into the cultivation realm. Their bodies were changed by the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, and they were able to breathe in and out true essence magic power. As for the sin body, it was a body that relied on the evil path to obtain the art of immortality. Because the evil path had never been tolerated by the righteous path, it was called the sin body. Seeing Yi Chen's reaction, Ziqing Tsang knew that he understood what a sinful body was. Therefore, he said, China had a cultivation system long before the Qin dynasty. That's why Yan Qi fought in the Battle of Zhuolu, the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, King Yu controlled the flood, and the Zhou dynasty conquered Zhou. This system was developed to its peak during the Spring and Autumn Warring States period. At that time, people like Laozi and Confucius rose to prominence, while the legalists and Mahists contended. It was a golden age. Yi Chen secretly nodded when he heard that. He had never underestimated the wisdom of the ancients. For example, King Wen wrote the Book of Changes and created the 8 trigrams of King Wen. It could be said that he had created a clear precedent for the cultivation civilization of China. At that time, he mentioned the way of the sage. Ziqing Tsang continued, the people led by Confucius advocated educating the people and using their jade bodies to collect merit. The Confucian Tao is the most sacred. The people led by Huang Shigong, Laozi, and the others paid attention to drinking and eating in the morning, refining external pills at night, and practicing talismans to become saints. They used the school of yin-yang and the school of vertical and horizontal to promote wars, absorbing death aura, resentment, and other methods to cultivate the sinful body to become saints. The Lord of Martial Peace, Bai Qi, or the Overlord of Chu, Xiang Yu, and the others paid attention to refining the body and becoming saints of the martial Tao. Ziqing Tsang spoke frankly with assurance. This grand occasion lasted until the Qin unified the 6 countries. At that time, the Confucian, Taoist, Mahists, legalists, Mingguang, Yinyang, school of vertical and horizontal, and Nongong were the most prosperous. All 9 of these schools have saints? Yi Chen's eyes flickered. That's right. Zi Qingtsang nodded lightly and sighed softly. However, after the first emperor unified the 6 countries, he suppressed the 100 schools of thought. He did things such as burning books, burying Confucians, and expelling Confucians, causing his relationship with the 9 schools to be rather tense. Yi Chen nodded secretly. The first emperor unified the 6 countries, including the 4 seas and 8 wastelands. He built the Great Wall, conquered Baiwei in the south, and resisted the Xiongnu in the north. He could be said to be the overlord of a generation. However, later on, he kept rejecting the 6 countries and hated the 100 schools of thought, especially the Confucians. He also implemented the Qin law that was too strict, causing the internal conflicts to be extremely tense. In the end, he died in his second life. Of course, this was also related to the previous monarchs of Qin. Earlier, Qin was only a small country in a corner. It was far from being as powerful as Chu and Qi. Later on, it was Duke Shaogong of Qin who put Xiangyang in an important position and used the legalist theory to rule the country. After 6 generations of hard work, Qin became increasingly powerful and finally annexed the 6 countries in one fell swoop. In history, the prime minister of the Qin dynasty, Li Si, was a member of the legalist school. In other words, for the past 6 generations, the Qin dynasty had respected the legalists and treated people harshly. Therefore, after it was passed down to the first emperor's generation, the first emperor was naturally deeply affected. He did not like people who only knew how to talk. The first emperor knew that people were easy to kill, but thoughts were the hardest to destroy. He was worried that no one could suppress the 9 schools after he died, so he had the desire to live forever. Zi Qingtsang said slowly. Therefore, he sent the alchemist Su Fu to the legendary 3 immortal mountains to seek the art of immortality. At this point, he paused for a moment. 3 years later, Su Fu returned. Although he did not find the legendary 3 immortal mountains, he discovered an immortal ruin. An immortal ruin? Yi Chen frowned. That's right. Zi Qingtsang nodded and said, at that time, the first emperor dismissed everyone and summoned Su Fu alone. No one knew what they talked about. All they knew was that half a month later, Qin General Wang Jian secretly led troops to dig up the tomb of Emperor Huang Xianyuan. The first emperor was with him. Yi Chen asked immediately, what happened then? Later on, it was rumored that the first emperor was deeply infected with a disease and could not see anyone. He had been hiding in his bedroom with the doors and windows tightly shut. Every day, the corpses of palace maids and eunuchs were secretly carried out and burned. Yi Chen's eyes focused when he heard that, in other words, the first emperor had already turned into a zombie? To be precise, he was poisoned? The first emperor's series of reactions and actions were either because he cultivated demonic techniques or because he was poisoned. That's right. Even though the first emperor was extremely secretive, he was still found out by the 9 schools. Some people said that the first emperor was cursed in the tomb of Emperor Huang Xianyuan. Zi Qingtsang nodded lightly. Some people also said that the first emperor found an expired immortal pill in the immortal ruin. After consuming it, his body mutated. Yi Chen found it funny when he heard that. Immortal pills could expire? The mighty ruler of the Qin dynasty, an existence that suppressed all borders, has actually become a monster. If the people of the world knew about this, I'm afraid they wouldn't be able to accept it. Zi Qingtsang said, therefore, it's rumored that the first emperor obtained a method from somewhere. Before the corpse poison attacked his heart, he actually tried to separate 2 bodies from his original body. They were the evil body with corpse poison and the avatar. 3 pure ones. Yi Chen almost blurted out. He realized that the first emperor's move was the Three Pure Ones. Chapter 942. The so-called Three Pure Ones originally referred to Laozi's Three Mountains. Later on, it referred to the omnipresent Tao that encompassed everything. However, the Three Pure Ones that Yi Chen was referring to was a divinity. After mastering it, he would be able to produce 3 clones. Each clone would possess the same strength as the main body, and they would still have the potential to cultivate and evolve. Yi Chen was dumbfounded as he thought to this point, the first emperor actually knows the Three Pure Ones technique? Subsequently, he forcefully suppressed the shock in his heart and asked again, "Are you saying that the first emperor wants to separate his evil body and Dharma body? He wants to use his jade body to rule the world while his Dharma body and evil body embark on the path of immortality?" "That's right." Zi Qingtsang glanced at him in surprise. Clearly, he did not expect Yi Chen to reveal the first emperor's true intention. "What happened after that?" Yi Chen said. "Did he succeed?" "He did, but there seems to be a flaw." Zi Qingtsang nodded slightly. The first emperor only separated his evil body and did not separate his Dharma body. Thus, he only had the jade body of a mortal body and the evil body of a zombie body. After that, the Qin kingdom's strength skyrocketed, and they obtained many secret weapons, such as battle spears with talismans, bows that had been consecrated, and even medicinal pills that were secretly produced. He sucked in a breath of cold air and said, in just 3 short months, he was able to nurture an army that could destroy the 6 kingdoms in a day. In other words, the immortal ruin that Su Fu discovered was real, and the first emperor obtained many good things from it? Yi Chen's eyes flickered. Zi Qingtsang nodded lightly and said, however, the paper could not wrap the fire. After the news spread, the survivors of the 6 kingdoms and the 9 schools also discovered the immortal ruins. The first emperor was worried that the strength of the survivors of the 6 kingdoms and the 9 schools would be beyond his control, so he launched a war first. At this point, he enunciated word by word. In that battle, the first emperor's jade body guarded the palace, and his evil body appeared in the world. He fought a shocking battle with the saints of the 9 schools with the battle prowess of the corpse king. The saints of the 9 schools were faintly defeated. At the critical moment, the survivors of the 6 kingdoms sneaked into the palace, and Chu set fire to a Pang palace to create a commotion. Zi Qingtsang shook his head as he spoke. The others attacked the first emperor's jade body, causing a problem with the first emperor's evil body. In the end, he was suppressed by the 9 saints. Then why is the first emperor's evil body suppressed in the Kunlun ruins? Yi Chen secretly frowned and said in confusion. Zi Qingtsang glanced at him and said, "Fellow, you might not know this, but after the saints of the 9 clans and the survivors of the 6 nations obtained the inheritance from the immortal ruins, they joined forces to create the Kunlun ruins." Yi Chen came to a sudden realization. Zi Qingtsang continued, because the first emperor's evil body was suppressed, the first emperor's jade body suffered a backlash. Day by day, he died of illness on the sand dune. In other words, the one buried in the mausoleum of Mount Li is the first emperor's jade body. Yi Chen smiled lightly. When he first saw the corpse king, he thought that the imperial mausoleum in the secular world's Shannon province was fake. Who would have thought that the first emperor was an unparalleled genius who cultivated the 3 pure ones with one breath and created an evil body? Thinking to this point, he couldn't help but ask, did the first emperor, the 9 schools, and the remnants of the 6 nations really obtain the immortal ruins? I'm not sure if it's the immortal ruins or not. Zi Qingtsang shook his head slightly, however. What I can be sure of is that the cultivation inheritances of the Kunlun ruins and even the secular world are related to the so-called immortal ruins. What happened after that? Yi Chen said. Later on, the immortal ruins were discovered one after another. Even the survivors of the 9 schools and the 6 nations were unable to hide it. Zi Qingtsang continued, the 9 schools could only join forces with the survivors of the 6 nations and use a great divinity to create the Kunlun ruins. They even migrated in order to prevent the secular world from threatening the Kunlun ruins. At this point, he seemed to hesitate, but in the end, he said, the saints of the 9 schools used a great divinity to extract the dragon vein from the secular world. They didn't even let go of the dragon vein of Kunlun Mountain. Their goal was to cut off the possibility of cultivation in the secular world. Of course, that's only one aspect. Zi Qingtsang smiled bitterly. Most importantly, the first emperor's evil body and jade body both belong to the emperor. They possess dragon energy, and only the dragon vein can suppress them. Moreover, they have to be infused with 9 dragons. Yi Chen smirked coldly when he heard that. He finally understood why the spiritual energy in the secular world was scarce and cultivation was almost cut off. It was all because of the 9 schools. Yi Chen asked again, I've heard that there was a great calamity in the Kunlun ruins, causing the path of saints to be severed. Even saints have disappeared. Is that true? Indeed. Zi Qingtsang said in a deep voice. As for what kind of calamity it is, I'm not sure either. I only vaguely know from a few ancient books that this calamity seems to be related to the great change in the world. The great change in the world? Yi Chen frowned. I've investigated it before, but with the disappearance of saints, many books and inheritances are gone. Zi Qingtsang shook his head slightly and said, however, I can guess that it should be related to the disappearance of the spiritual opportunity in the world. He paused for a moment and explained, the so-called spiritual opportunity is a necessary item to become a saint. This item can only be understood and not explained. If there is no spiritual opportunity, mortals will not be able to become saints, and saints will also decay because of it. It's precisely because I don't have spiritual opportunity that I'm still at the quasi-saint stage, unable to step into the saint stage. Also, because I don't have spiritual opportunity, I've never dared to make a move in the past few hundred years. Once I make a move, the life force in my body will be consumed. His face was filled with bitterness. The Kunlun ruins called him a saint, but in reality, he was just a quasi-saint who had just touched the threshold of a saint. Yi Chen nodded secretly. No wonder the other party was unwilling to fight him from the beginning until now. He was clearly fighting with his life. Unless it was absolutely necessary, no one would do that. Then, his eyes flickered as he said, I've heard Ling Xuanzi from the Sword sect say that above the Emperor stage is creation. What's above creation? A saint? Above the Emperor stage is creation. Zi Qingtsang spoke frankly with assurance. The so-called creation is to comprehend creation and begin to glimpse the power of heaven and earth. Above the nirvana stage is the transcendent stage. The transcendent stage is no different from the creation stage. And I'm only at the intermediate stage of the creation stage. He took a deep breath in. Whether it's the creation stage or the transcendent stage, they can only be called quasi-saints. Only those above the two who can completely control the power of heaven and earth are true saints. Yi Chen squinted. He did not come to Purple Cap Mountain for nothing this time. He learned many things about Earth that he did not know, especially the reason why Earth lacked spiritual energy. Doubt flashed through Yi Chen's eyes as he thought to this point. I wonder what's the relationship between the great Qin dynasty in the ancient desolate realm and the Qin dynasty in the secular world? And Qianqian, the princess of the great Qin dynasty in the ancient desolate realm. Chapter 943. That afternoon, Yi Chen began to recover the spirit body of Emperor Brush's artifact spirit on Purple Cap Mountain with the cave abode that Zi Qingtsang provided. Emperor Brush and the Heavenly Emperor Sword were known as the sharpest weapons in the immortal world. The tip of the brush was like a blade. Yi Chen, who was at his peak, held Emperor Brush. He could judge the death of all living beings with one stroke. The tip of the brush was enough to destroy a world. However, after that battle, almost all of Yi Chen's immortal weapons were destroyed. Even Emperor Brush was no exception. Compared to the shattered Night Demon armor, Emperor Brush was in a worse state. After all, its defense was naturally inferior to the Night Demon armor. Therefore, after they were both shattered, the Night Demon's artifact spirit was still awake, while Emperor Brush's spirit body fell into a deep sleep. Fortunately, Zi Qingsong's Soul Shaper Golden Lotus allowed Emperor Brush's artifact spirit to protect the remaining spirit body. Otherwise, Yi Chen might not have been able to wake it up. 2 hours later, rays of light suddenly surged from the cave abode. Subsequently, an extremely serious voice sounded. "I, Emperor Brush, greet your majesty." The excitement in his voice could not be hidden. It was a middle-aged man floating in the air. His long hair fluttered behind him, and golden flames surged on his body. The man was kneeling on one knee in the air at that moment. His eyes were filled with respect and longing as he looked at Yi Chen. "Please get up." Yi Chen suppressed the excitement inside of him and helped him up with a wave of his hand. Night Demon shot out of his body and transformed into a wretched old man. He looked at Emperor Brush's artifact spirit and chuckled. "Old cunning Brush, you're really tough. You're still alive." "Aren't you still alive too, old B***tch? Emperor Brush's artifact spirit smirked coldly, his eyes filled with disdain. "Who are you calling an old B***tch? Night Demon immediately exploded. He blew his beard and glared. Wu Shuang, can you tolerate this old cunning Brush acting cool in front of you?" As Yi Chen's two great offensive weapons, the Heavenly Emperor Sword and Emperor Brush, had never been on good terms. Therefore, Night Demon mentioned Wu Shuang without even thinking. Yi Wu Shuang's figure slowly appeared next to Yi Chen. He was carrying the little girl in his arms and said in all seriousness, "I can." Night Demon Battle Armor. Yi Wu Shuang looked at Emperor Brush's weapon spirit quietly and smiled brightly. "It's good that you're not dead. Let's fight again if there's a chance." "All right." The Emperor Brush's weapon spirit smiled. When Night Demon saw that, he sighed deliberately and said, "Truly, good people don't pay with their lives but scourges live for 1,000 years." At that moment, Emperor Brush's weapon spirit noticed the little girl in Yi Wu Shuang's embrace. "Master, is this your child?" Emperor Brush knelt down on one knee and said respectfully, "Emperor Brush greets your highness." The little fellow's eyes widened in confusion. "Daddy, why is this uncle kowtowing to others? You even called me your highness. This is one of Daddy's brothers. You can call him Uncle Emperor Brush from now on." Yi Chen walked over and patted the little girl's head. I don't dare, how can this old servant?" Emperor Brush's weapon spirit was about to refuse, but it could only agree after seeing Yi Chen's unquestionable gaze. "Uncle Emperor Brush, do you have a gift for me?" The little girl walked over and looked at him eagerly. Yes. Emperor Brush's weapon spirit laughed out loud. Following that, its body swayed and transformed into a golden brush. Then, it tapped the space between the little girl's brows. A stream of golden Genesis energy entered the little girl's glabella from the tip of the brush. Everyone saw the acupoints in the little girl's body open up, and she directly entered the martial Dao master stage. Meanwhile, Emperor Brush's spirit body became a little illusory. Yi Chen frowned and said, "Your gift is too much." Emperor Brush had used the last remnant of the imperial weapon's origin to cleanse the little girl's muscles and marrow, allowing her to instantly step into the martial Dao master stage. The price was that it would be much more difficult for Emperor Brush to recover to its peak in the later stages. However, he shook his head repeatedly. His eyes were filled with love as he looked at the little girl. "It's fine. At most, I'll spend more effort in the future. Return to your position." Yi Chen took out Emperor Brush. The weapon's spirit turned into a streak of light and returned to the brush. The little girl tugged at the corner of his shirt and said pitifully, "Daddy, when are we going home? When are we going to look for Mommy?" "Soon." Yi Chen comforted her and walked out of the cave abode after carrying her. He still had one more thing to do. That was to release all the suppressed dragon veins and let them return to the secular world. He would open up a new world for the hundreds of thousands of cultivators in the secular world. When he walked out, Elder Qin Xian and the rest, who had been waiting anxiously, came up to him. "Peak Master, are you all right?" The people who came to watch the battle did not leave. When they saw him coming out, they held their breath. Everyone looked at Yi Chen in awe. Even saints were no match for him. From now on, he was the true master of the Kunlun ruins. "I'm fine." Yi Chen looked around and said to Elder Qin Xian and the rest, "Let's go." Just as everyone was about to return, a black shadow suddenly flashed across the sky. A black figure suddenly swept over from the horizon. When it landed, everyone's pupils involuntarily shrunk. The other party was a drought demon. The most terrifying thing was that, after the drought demon was the corpse king. It was an existence that everyone in the Kunlun ruins feared the most apart from Yi Chen. Wu Tianho's expression turned cold. He took a step forward and questioned, "Why are you blocking our way?" Qin Jian glanced at Wu Tianho in disdain before he looked at Yi Chen. "Mr. Yi, my master invites you." Everyone's expressions turned pale when they heard that. The corpse king wanted to see Mad Southern Yi? Could it be that the two of them were going to fight? Yi Chen placed his hands behind his back and squinted at Qin Jian. "Why does your master want to see me?" "You'll know when you get there, Mr. Yi. Why ask so much?" Qin Jian said impolitely. Boom. As soon as he said that, Yi Chen flashed past. He held the emperor brush in his hand and quickly drew a corpse suppression talisman between his brows. Qin Jian discovered that his body could no longer move. What shocked him the most was that a terrifying suppressive force spread from head to toe. "Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to me like that? If it weren't for your master, I would have torn you into pieces today." Yi Chen said calmly, "You can see me if you want. Get your master to come here personally." Then, with a flick of his finger, Qin Jian's figure turned into a ray of dark light and shot out, eventually disappearing into the horizon. The surrounding people looked at this scene with fear and trepidation. Clearly, they did not expect Yi Chen to treat the Corpse King's people like that. One must know that the Corpse King was an existence that could even severely injure the old saint. Thinking to this point, many people's eyes flashed with schadenfreude. They could not wait for the two of them to fight to the death. After all, no matter who died, it would be beneficial to the Kunlun ruins. Chapter 944. 50 kilometers away from Purple Cap Mountain. Among the thousands of zombie army, the man in the black dragon robe sitting on the carriage listened to his subordinate's suggestion quietly. There was no expression on his demonic face. On the ground there was a drought demon. It was Qin Jian. However, there was a corpse-suppressing talisman between his brows that suppressed him, preventing him from moving. "My lord, this person really doesn't respect you." A drought demon roared angrily with a cold gaze. "I suggest we get rid of him so that he won't become a threat to us in the future." "My lord, the calm martial lord is right." Another drought demon knelt on one knee. "This person deserves to die for not respecting my lord. My lord, please kill this person." The remaining two drought demons' roars shook the sky, their murderous aura surging. Enough. The man in the black dragon robe on the carriage finally reacted. He stood up and looked at the corpse-suppressing talisman between Qin Jian's brows. He said indifferently, "Corpse-suppressing talisman? This person is surprising me more and more." Then, with a wave of his hand, the terrifying corpse-suppressing talisman between Qin Jian's brows was easily wiped away. Inside the Dao sect's secret palace, Yi Chen looked at the suppressed dragon vein before him from a close distance. Confusion flashed through his eyes. Strange, why can't the 9 dragon veins escape when there's no formation on them? He had planned to completely release the 9 dragon veins that were suppressed. However, he was extremely surprised to discover that even after removing the formation on the dragon veins still could not move. Yi Chen squinted and secretly frowned. Could it be that it's not a formation that's trapping them now? You're right. At this moment, a ghostly voice suddenly sounded from the secret palace. Subsequently, a man in a black dragon robe with 9 dragons embroidered on his chest slowly appeared. Yi Chen was not surprised at all. He said calmly, "Should I call you the founding emperor or the corpse king? It doesn't matter how you address me." The man in the black dragon robe had deep eyes and sharp eyebrows. Even though he was facing Yi Chen, who was the most famous person in the Kunlun ruins, he remained calm. "The past founding emperor is dead, and the great Qin is dead. You can call me Ing." Ing? Yi Chen secretly shook his head. Even though this existence had said that the founding emperor and great Qin had perished, he still claimed to have one. From this, it could be seen that he still had not gotten over it. However, what the other party said wasn't wrong. Back then, the first emperor had attempted to transform the 3 pure ones into 1 qi, but in the end, he had only created a sinful body. At that moment, the sinful body was no longer the first emperor. At most, it was the first emperor's ambition. Yi Chen said coldly, "So, why are you looking for me?" "Of course I'm here to help you." Ing looked up at the dragon's vein in front of him. His black robes fluttered in the wind, and his demeanor was peerless. "Aren't you curious why they still can't move even though you've already broken the array of the 9 dragon's veins?" "Help me!" Yi Chen smirked coldly. "Are you really that kind? I think you're helping yourself, right? We are all smart people. Let's not beat around the bush." "You're right." Ying's expression did not change. He glanced at him as if his eyes could penetrate the world. "I guess the sage-to-be of Purple Cap Mountain has told you about me?" Yi Chen nodded lightly. "Back then, the 9 schools worked together to suppress me in this small world. They extracted 9 dragons' veins from the mortal world and tried to use dragon energy to suppress the corpse energy in my body." When Ing mentioned this, he seemed to be talking about an extremely ordinary old matter. The dragon's vein has a spirit. In order to prevent the dragon's vein from escaping, the saints of the 9 schools set up the Golden Wood Spirit Lock formation and the Heaven and Earth Spiritual Energy Lock in this world. Heaven and Earth Spiritual Energy Lock? Yi Chen squinted when he heard that. He had broken the Golden Wood Spirit Lock formation. As for the Heaven and Earth Spiritual Energy Lock, he really could not tell. "It's normal that you can't tell." Ing stared at Yi Chen. In reality, even the sage-to-be of Purple Cap Mountain and I couldn't tell. "However, I found it in an ancient book a few days ago. Back then, the saints joined forces to set up the Heaven and Earth Spiritual Energy Lock on the world wall of this small world. Not only did this lock seal the dragon's vein, but it also sealed the spiritual energy of this small world from leaking to the mortal world." "On the world wall of the Kunlun ruins?" Yi Chen's eyes focused. No wonder he did not notice the so-called Heaven and Earth Spiritual Energy Lock. It turned out that it was 10,000 kilometers high in the sky. However, he then looked at Ing. "Since you know, why did you come looking for me? I was suppressed 2,000 years ago. Although I didn't have 10% of my strength, 10,000 kilometers high in the sky is nothing to me." Ing admitted it openly. The Heaven and Earth Spiritual Energy Lock has the Saint's mark, and it's extremely sensitive to the corpse energy on my body. Once I get close, the Saint's mark will explode and destroy the Heaven and Earth Spiritual Energy Lock, causing this space to collapse. Yi Chen smiled lightly. "You want to leave the Kunlun ruins, but there's a Heaven and Earth Spiritual Energy Lock that runs through the world barrier of the Kunlun ruins, so you came looking for me? Are you that confident that I'll agree to your request?" "You will." Ing looked at him calmly. "Because the two of us have many similarities. Since we're born to be emperors, how can we be called emperors if we betray the people of the world? It's not impossible for me to agree to your request." Yi Chen took a good look at him. If you go to the mortal world, you're not allowed to cause trouble. Otherwise, not only will I not agree to it, I'll even fight you in the Kunlun ruins. Previously, no matter how much trouble Ing caused in the Kunlun ruins, he could watch from the sidelines. However, he could not do so in the secular world. That was his home, that was his route. Sure, Ing said slowly. All right. Only then did Yi Chen nod. He was not afraid that the other party would go back on his word. The other party was right. Both of them had something in common. Since they were born rulers, it was only natural for them to keep their promises. After that, the two of them turned into afterimages and shot to the space outside the Gate of Tao. This sudden scene caused the people from the Gate of Tao to be extremely shocked. Isn't that the Corpse King? Mad Southern Yi is in cahoots with the Corpse King? Heavens, if these two join forces, our Kunlun ruins will have no hope of counterattacking. Just as the Tao sect disciples were discussing, Yi Chen, who was in the air, took a step higher into the sky. Two balls of golden flames suddenly erupted from his eyes like two lanterns that lit up the entire sky. The entire Kunlun ruins shook when he took that step. It was as if Yi Chen had stepped on his heart. On Purple Cap Mountain, Zi Qingsong's expression changed, and his body trembled slightly. What's he trying to do? Could it be that he wants to break through the world barrier of our Kunlun ruins? At the same time, the moment Yi Chen went deep into the void, all the supreme giants in the entire Kunlun ruins sensed it on a whim. At the next moment, the supreme giants shot into the void one after another. They looked at where Yi Chen was in shock and bewilderment. Every step Yi Chen took was extremely stable, as if he was stepping on invisible stairs. In ancient times, there were sages who swore to establish their hearts for the world, establish their lives for the people, inherit the ultimate techniques for the saints, and establish peace for all ages. An extremely calm voice came out of his mouth. Today, I, Yi Chen, am untalented. I'm willing to break this cage that's above their heads for the billions of living beings in the mortal world. Return peace to the mortal world. Chapter 945. In the sky above the Kunlun ruins, Tao sect. Almost the moment Yi Chen stepped into the air, every corner of the Kunlun ruins shook. It was a strange feeling, as if it was a warning. Countless powerhouses stepped through the air and looked at the figure that stood in the air in bewilderment. It's Mad Southern Yi. What is he doing? Is this malefic star going to kill again? The sound of discussion was like a tidal wave, exploding out within a radius of 3,000 feet. Boom! At that moment, an explosion suddenly came from the sky. In an instant, dark clouds covered the sky, and the entire sky darkened. Endless thunderclouds surged toward Yi Chen at a speed visible to the naked eye. The phenomenon seemed to be the movement of the stars. Then, it emitted a destructive aura. This aura seemed to be the might of heaven, the dense might of heaven and earth. At that moment, the expressions of countless people changed drastically. They could not help but prostrate on the ground, as if they were carrying a mountain on their backs. Heaven's might. A powerhouse spat blood on the spot. This is heaven's might. An ancient supreme giant tried to resist heaven's might, and his face was filled with shock. What is Mad Southern Yi trying to do? He actually triggered heaven's wrath. Heaven's might? Ing, who was watching from the ground, smirked coldly. It's just a heavenly diagram set up by the saints to deceive the world. Does a mere heavenly diagram really think that it's the heavenly Tao? Back then, the saints of the 9 schools thought that they were saints and tried to patrol on behalf of the heavens to set the rules of the human world. Therefore, they refined a heavenly diagram to cover the sky above the Kunlun ruins and used it to impersonate the heavenly Tao. The thunderclouds in the sky had already condensed to the extreme. Endless lightning turned into lightning dragons that roared at Yi Chen from above. It seemed to be a warning. The heavenly diagram coexisted with the Kunlun ruins barrier. After thousands of years, it had already developed a trace of spirituality. Therefore, it sensed it as soon as Yi Chen wanted to unseal the heaven and earth spiritual energy seal. At that moment, Zi Qingsong, who was living on Purple Cap Mountain, sensed it. With a flash, he appeared above the Tao sect in the blink of an eye. Zi Qingsong looked at the thunderclouds in the sky in shock and exclaimed, "High-grade Tao artifact spirit?" Before Yi Chen entered the Kunlun ruins, he, the number one person in the Kunlun ruins with a quasi-saint cultivation base, did not notice that there was a Tao weapon above the Kunlun ruins. Tao weapons were used by saints. Even the purple-gored Tao sword of Purple Cap Mountain was only a half-step Tao weapon. A mere half-step Tao weapon could injure Yi Chen. And now, this high-grade Tao artifact. Who could stop him? So it's the spirituality of a heavenly diagram. Yi Chen noticed that as well. He lifted his head to look at the sky as disdain flashed through his eyes. Even if it's the real heavenly Tao, I'm not afraid, let alone a mere Tao artifact spirit like you. His disdainful gaze seemed to have angered the thunderclouds in the clouds, causing them to boil. Boom! Roaring dragon-shaped lightning descended from the sky and poured toward Yi Chen. The roar shook the entire Kunlun ruins. Thousands of lightning dragons descended with the might of the heavens. The earth-shattering might cause the expressions of the surrounding onlookers to change drastically. All of them were terrified. Yi Chen was fearless in the face of such a scene. He shouted coldly, "Where's Emperor Brush?" Boom! As a long and ancient sound of air being torn apart rang out, a golden light appeared out of thin air, as if it had transcended time. Subsequently, a golden brush appeared in the air. Yi Chen stretched his hand out with Emperor Brush in his hand. He stepped into the sky. There are three wonders in the sky: the sun, the moon, and the stars. They can penetrate the heavens and the earth, and they can shock ghosts and gods. As the heavenly emperor, I control the sun and the moon, reverse yin and yang, and overturn the universe, rumble. At the same time, the thousands of lightning dragons in the sky condensed into a huge hand when they were about to approach Yi Chen. They pressed down on Yi Chen. Yi Chen's expression remained the same. He held Emperor Brush in his hand and quickly wrote 8 words in the air: "Heaven and earth as one, natural Tao." Boom! Just as the giant hand formed from lightning was about to reach him, it suddenly dispersed and then collapsed. This scene caused everyone on the ground to reveal expressions of disbelief. They almost didn't dare to believe all of this. He actually dealt with such a terrifying attack so easily? Even Ying was no exception. He stared fixedly at the Emperor Brush in Yi Chen's hand. For some reason, he felt a hint of threat from it. Rumble! The thunderclouds in the sky became more and more turbulent, as if they were completely enraged. Then, lightning flashed, and countless bolts of lightning tore through space. Every bolt of lightning extended to 3,000 meters long in the sky. They were like lightning dragons roaring in a sea of lightning as they struck at Yi Chen fiercely. Yi Chen's expression remained the same as he quickly wrote 16 words in the air: "The great Tao runs on the surface of the mountains and rivers. Civilization prospers, and the world is at peace." His voice sounded like an ancient god talking to himself, causing the air to seem to be filled with the sound of thousands of drums at the same time. When the 16 words were written, the wind and clouds changed drastically, and yin and yang reversed. Crack, crack. Space was torn apart, and thousands of lightning dragons were instantly destroyed and turned into nothingness. The thunderclouds in the sky were forcefully dispersed. The world regained its clarity once again. However, the ground was dead silent. It was as if what happened earlier was just an illusion. However, Yi Chen suddenly lifted his head and shot into the sky. Coldness filled his eyes. "How dare you play dead in front of me? Get out here!" There was silence in the sky. "You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit," Yi Chen scoffed coldly. Without saying anything, his body shot up like an arrow. He extended his hand and threw a punch at the Kunlun ruins realm wall. "Get out here!" Boom! An earth-shattering sound exploded in the sky. Subsequently, an enraged voice quietly rang in Yi Chen's ears. Sir, don't go too far. As the space shook, a crack slowly appeared on the Kunlun Ruins realm wall. The crack was like the eye of a giant that looked down at Yi Chen from above. Damn it, how dare a mere artifact spirit be so arrogant? This old demon can't take it anymore. Before Yi Chen could speak, the night demon armor on his body cursed immediately. Wu Shuang, old cunning brush, what about you guys? Emperor Brush spoke in human language. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore either. The heavenly emperor's sword shadow that Yi Wu Shuang had transformed into spoke slowly. Old cunning brush, let's attack together and beat him up. As a gleam flashed on Yi Chen's body, Night Demon revealed his spirit body and charged into the crack directly. At the next moment, Emperor Brush's artifact spirit and Wu Shuang followed one after another. Subsequently, the sound of fighting came from the crack. It was accompanied by Night Demon's screams. Damn it, this guy is even more shameless than the old cunning brush. He actually kicked my crotch. Old cunning brush, Wu Shuang, hold his hands and feet down. I'm going to teach him a lesson. Hey, look at my tornado toxic dragon drill. No one can save you even if you scream your lungs out.